principle. Don't be a retard, never be retarded. Death before retardation. The limiting principle podcast. A limiting principle Christmas. The limiting principle.
Sir John Bagot Glubb, Bagot, I don't know how, I've only seen it. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Known as Glubb Pasha. But he was a scholar, an author, and he worked with the Arabs for decades.
Okay.
So in the Middle East, in Iraq, and then in Transjordan. And he transformed the Arab Legion from a police force to an army, leading it through World War II and the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. He was eventually dismissed by King Hussein in 1956 due to British influence, and he became a knight that very year. And essentially, he wrote a whole bunch of things when he retired on history, and this was the major thing. And I think it's really interesting because he's been in two completely different cultures. He's a British guy, but he's been in the Middle East most of his professional life. So he's seen different cultures and he's seen their history, I would imagine, because he does bring it up a lot. He mentions the Arabs a lot.
So lay out Glubb's thesis. What's his thesis?
So his thesis is we've been looking at history completely wrong. And there is a pattern that exists and is very specific to empires and what happens to the empires themselves and the people in the empires.
Okay. And what does he generally say in terms of what that pattern entails? I follow there's like different steps, and all these empires essentially follow, maybe not exactly the same. Is it essentially like it's a pattern that is followed, like the players, the events, the cultures, those don't matter as much, like regardless of what the context is of the empire, they still follow the same pattern, basically?
Yes. So actually great to start at the end for this because he has a really good summary on the last page. So yeah, this is 26 pages long, but it's very dense. It's extremely dense, and he brings up many different examples, and he doesn't explain everything completely. You sort of have to piece things together. So, his main points are we don't learn from history because our studies are brief. It's like, how like that meme of like, do you think of the Roman Empire?
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
That actually bothers me because I don't. I actually never think of the Roman Empire. I think of the Roman Republic because it's the superior Rome. Like, and if you say different, you're just wrong. Like, you're absolutely dead freaking wrong.
What about the Roman Republic makes it superior than the Roman Empire?
Well, first, how they ended up conquering. They were a republic, but they became an empire when they fought the Carthaginians during the Punic Wars, and they went through crazy things. Like, for example, what is it? The Battle of Cannae, in which the Romans lost anywhere between 40 to 60,000 of their possibly 80,000 soldiers or troops. Wow. Just in one day, they lost anywhere between 10-15% of the adult male population. Like it was a lot. It was losses that countries suffered through years and years of world wars that Rome suffered in a day.
That's like the most efficient way I've ever heard of a massive amount of people in one war dying. How does that even happen?
This is the battle. This is where Hannibal Barca. Where Hannibal becomes like one of the biggest names in military history, because what he does is he does a double envelopment. He basically has an army that collapses itself and surrounds the Roman army, which is twice the size of his own army. That's why it's so impressive, because it's not just a surrounding of the army and just like laying waste at your enemies during an entire afternoon. It's you're half their size.
So the other guys had superior numbers, but because of his strategy. Okay.
But complete strategy, because this was the end of a series of battles. Like he set up a huge ambush. I'm probably going to get the order wrong and the names wrong. That's why I'm going to be a little vague. But he sets up a huge ambush, and I believe in Lake Trasimene. He there is like he basically engages in 3 battles, the last one being Cannae, and with like major trickery and strategy, which completely blindsides the Romans. But that's what's really impressive is during that time, the Romans just kept on going back and being like, we're going to fight you until you're dead. Like, we don't care who you are. Like, we're just going to send legions after you. But then if you look at Rome in the end, their own citizens refused to fight. Their entire army was a foreign army. And jumping ahead, but this is sort of very related to what we see here.
Were they just like demoralized? They didn't feel like defending?
Exactly. They're completely demoralized.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
You're gonna say that a lot. Like, don't you're gonna say that a lot. Okay. So what he says is we don't learn from history because we only cover brief time periods. Like we cover the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic. Rome is a perfect example. When does it start? When does it end? We don't know. Glubb says there's 2 periods of empire expansion, which I'm probably going to refer to as going Super Saiyan or like hulking out. That's basically what it is. Like it's you're in your peak like performance. Like you're at your peak, but that peak only lasts a little while.
What in terms of going Super Saiyan and being at your peak, what was that for the United States Empire?
So actually what's really funny is the US is sort of different because its first stage is much longer than anyone else's. But essentially like there's different actual models of the US. You can look at 2 peaks. You can look at one peak as being when we dropped the atomic bomb, or probably the actual peak is when the Soviet Union collapsed and it was a unipolar moment. That was probably our peak, which goes back to, weren't the 90s awesome?
Bringing it back.
Oh, exactly. So his second point is, in a surprising manner, 250 years is the average length of national greatness. And that's the point. It's not how long you last. It's not any of that. It's national greatness. We are the empire. We are the shining hill. Well, it's shining city on the hill. Like, yeah, you are only that for a period of 250 years. That's like saying, oh, you human live up to a 120. Or maybe actually no, it'd be like you can live up to 80 plus or 90 if you live in a nice country, but plus or minus 10 around there. Like there's a little bit of leeway, but you're not going to see like Super Saiyan mode for 400 years. Like that's just not going to happen.
Aren't we approaching the 250 year mark here next year?
Yes,
that's fine. There's nothing to worry about, guys. Everything is fine. Everything is going to go swimmingly. Everything is fine.
No, it's no problem. But actually, there might be some hope. We might not be like there, depending on how you interpret this guy. But
it's interesting because
not good either way.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating because like I don't know anything about this stuff. I know like in terms of like history, I know like sort of just general things, but I'm going to learn a lot just by you talking about this because you know a lot more about it than I do. You studied it, you teach it, but we're in a situation now where we are in a purposeful managed decline. Like all these communists, what's his name in New York, Mamdani, everyone keeps harping on how he's what do they forget about 9/11? Do they forget about 9/11 and Muslims? And it's like it's not really about like he's some jihadi. He's more of like a gay race communist and like a third world communist, because there's this entire scheme that is currently going on where the United States and the West in general, right, predominantly like white Christian countries, Europe, some parts of Europe, the UK, United States, it's basically viewed as, well, we built the current world the way it is, and we plundered and pillaged and raped our way across the world, and it is our fault these African countries, these other areas of the world, are completely in disarray. So they've divided it between the global north and the global south, and we're in the global north. And the concept of equity, right? Like they always say, oh, we're going to build everybody up, but really what they're going to do is they're going to bring the top people down. So now everybody's sort of at the bottom, and then we're all equal. That's what communism basically is, right? They're talking about basically like dividing the globe up into the global north and the global south. So you're starting to see a bunch of different policies where they're purposely declining the West and the United States in order to supposedly bring about equity for these countries that we've destroyed. And of course, what's going to end up happening is that everyone's just going to be poor, and we're all going to be cold. And there's not. It's the whole scheme is ridiculous.
You're gonna enjoy yourself. This is gonna be hilarious because you're gonna have freak out moments. All right,
that's fair. Just like you last time. This is perfect. Roles are reversed.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. So he's like, look, the average lifespan is 250. Maybe you get a few decades, but no. And actually, he has one good example that's like basically essentially 250 years, like almost to the dot, somewhere like that. Yeah. This average hasn't varied for 3,000 years. So like it's basically like you got 10 generations and then you're done. And so these are the stages. So the first stage is the age of pioneers. You have a outburst of sort. Like this is where like a small colony defeats a great empire. I wonder if we've seen that before, with the revolution. Yeah. Then you have your age of conquest. So this is where you're like, all right, now we're going to use the tools of the old empire. We're going to conquer. We're going to use their ideas, their guns, their weapons, and just take over. Then we're going to monetize this land in the age of commerce. Now, like, as a note, these phases aren't very well defined in when they stages bleed into each other. So like
sure.
During the age of conquest, you also have the age of commerce. Like, because if you look at our age of conquest, like the world wars, we were also making a whole lot of money because we had a whole lot of production in factories. So all of these things go together. And what's interesting is they must be this way. Like, it's like a human. You have to go through puberty. Like a girl has to go through puberty before menopause. Like, that just makes sense. Like you can't have one without the other, sort of thing. Like, you can't have affluence. You can't have a whole fuck ton of money without the commerce and the business side that gets you that money.
Of course. Yeah.
And then, that would be the age of affluence where, if you notice, most of our big, nice bridges and buildings were built a whole really long ass time ago. Have you noticed that?
I have.
It's been a while.
There's a
early
bridge.
1900s, mid 1900s. Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the infrastructure is falling apart. There's a bridge. It's on a highway. It's called I-80 in Illinois. And there's a bridge that's like, you just look at it and it just looks rickety. And this is like a big highway. And of course, the bridge goes over a river. For about 3 years, they had digital signs everywhere saying, essentially, we're not really sure if the bridge is going to hold. We're letting you know that it might fall apart and you might die. There was there's multiple signs going both ways telling us that.
Dude, we've seen some bad bridges. Like, yeah. And just going, like, anyone who's 30 or 40 can think back in their childhood and things are different. And then from the age of affluence, you then have the age of intellect. Like, what are you going to use all that money for? Okay, I have way too many paintings, universities. Okay,
sure.
And then somewhere around that point comes the age of decadence. And so what is decadence? Decadence, so it's defensiveness, pessimism, materialism, frivolity, an influx of foreigners, welfare state, a weakening of religion.
Oh my God.
All right. So decadence is because you've been rich for way too long. You've had power for way too long. No one's been there to check your power or anything like this. You've been selfish as hell. You have a love of money. You have no sense of duty. Like, if you just summarize this guy, and he might have an idealistic view, maybe, but he's like, the first people who like created an empire, they might have done stuff like that might be bad, but they actually contributed, like they sacrificed their blood and sweat and tears to create something greater than them. And then eventually everyone else started profiting off of it, making money for themselves instead of contributing towards the common good or the what the nation wants. And then everyone just continues to get more selfish, and then screw everything. As the problems get worse, we blame each other, and we don't unite, and we never go back to the whole point of self-sacrifice, which is the whole point of the pioneers in every single at the beginning of every empire. Like those people who those poor colonial farmers who are like, I'm not going to tolerate this stuff, that just died and bled out, and their lineages and their bloodlines ended. Like we don't know what their sacrifice is, but they sacrificed.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I was talking about this before we started the show, but we're in this sort of strange position where a lot of the reason for the decline is because of social media, parasitic ideas spreading, all these kids that started churning out when everyone was isolated during COVID. But we are in a strange position that we're able to we're essentially live streaming the decline of Western civilization. And we're seeing all these different people start to look to the past, to different philosophers, and then see what springs out of those philosophies in order how to govern society going ahead. So everyone, I don't know if this has happened before. I'm sure people, it sort of reminds me of in Superman, when his dad Jor-El was running around screaming that the planet was going to explode and nobody was listening to him. That's what it sort of feels like watching all of this happen. And then I'll talk to a normal person that's not on Twitter and X all the time, trying to explain things to them, and they just look at me as if I have two heads. Like they have no idea what ideas are responsible for the current dominant political structures in existence. They have no idea of the lessons of the past that these people try to impart on us to warn us of this happening again. They just have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's just natural. That's just what happens. Like, that's
frustrating.
My cope is, this is what's supposed to happen. Like, okay, like I don't get too bent out of shape, and I haven't ever since reading this, because it's like, oh, this is what's supposed to happen. And like, yes, I'm playing my role of like being the canary in the coal mine, but okay, there is a way. There is a way. Like Rome did it. Rome had their resurgence. Didn't last as long, but they had it. Like. They had the five good emperors, but even still in the five good emperors, like the rot was there, like the corruption was there, like, just look at right after Marcus, like things went very bad. And so, but those people were there. So, I guess, so he continues by saying like, okay, so the reason why this happens is because of internal factors. Like the life cycle happens because of internal factors, but don't look at the fall, don't look at the collapse, because honestly, the collapse doesn't even matter. The most important thing is when you get to the age of intellect, and like halfway through it or something, like a few years into it, like there is the age of decadence that bleeds in. Like essentially people start noticing, like, and then more people start noticing. But by the time that everyone notices, it's way too late. Like that's the point.
For sure.
Like once the majority notices, even a significant minority, I would say like once like 25%, you're still like eventually screwed. And you can look at yourself as different, but it's like, yeah, but so did Rome and so did everyone else. Like everyone looked at themselves as special and different. But
it's like if you're on a ship and like somebody's been poking holes in the ship, and then eventually everyone realizes that there's a bunch of holes in the ship, but it's too late to repair the holes and the boat's just sinking.
Yeah, and then so what happens in that situation? Everyone blames each other for not noticing the holes in the ship, and like
they literally they are too. It's the boomers. The boomers are like a big target of this, but even the millennials. I'm a millennial. I'm 39, turning 40 in 4 days, and the millennials are largely maligned because the millennials are the ones that are coming into power now, and there are so many psychotic woke leftist millennials. So yeah, everybody's just basically blaming each other. I'd say with Gen Z and Gen Alpha being the most angry, I would say.
Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes. So basically, like, first we only look at short periods, Roman Empire, and then the only thing we care about is I love how he speaks. By the way, this was made in I believe 1972. Really? But it's going to read like it was written yesterday. That this is why it's so great. So it's something like Yeah. So then he goes, our narrative is governed by our own vanity rather than by objectivity. Like, okay, we look at the death of Caesar, like, oh, were the senators correct or wrong? And it's like, no, that's not the point of it. The point is, like, that was going to happen. Like, see, like that whole thing with Julius Caesar, like the seeds were there 60 years ago. Like,
The seeds of what?
the only thing, like, yeah, Caesar's important, but Caesar is just completing something that was going to happen either way. Like, if you take Caesar out of the picture, you were still going to have the collapse of Rome. It was going to happen another way. Like,
Sure.
And I guess the important timeline is that Rome had a resurgence. Like, the thing about all of this is, at any moment, just like real life, you can just die. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to complete the 6 stages. You can just die. Like, a meteor, like a meteorite can plop on your house. That's it. It's over. Like, you had nothing to do. Like, you had, sorry, no say.
This this cycle process of what you're talking about in terms of a civilization building itself up and then falling down, it does make me feel a little fatalistic, and I am kind of like a little bit fatalistic. I feel like you become fatalistic and you black pill on the big picture stuff like America and all the stuff that's happening, and once you do that, hopefully you could like sort of focus on your own life and take charge of the things that are around you and try to have a good time and live as good as a life as you can. But this is basically, it's like the plot to the Matrix. There's just like various iterations.
Yeah,
What?
he does have a good spin on it, though. Like, he does, because yes, it's bad for us, but remember, other parts of the world are at different phases of empire. Like, this is why, like, if you wondered, like, bro, why is Saudi Arabia building all the crazy stuff they're building? Yeah, because, bro, they're in the age of commerce. They're in the age, like, they're a little bit before us, but they're expanding. Maybe their actual conquest might not be a military conquest. It might be a conquest of their desert. Which could, like, imagine if, this is crazy. Let's just say they turned their desert into I don't know, like a temperate zone or something, like a temperate rainforest. Like, let's just imagine. Wouldn't that just create new land and new opportunities to build and all, like a completely like a revolution or something of some sort? Like, it would.
Yeah.
So, like it. So the whole point is different empires are at different places. So, okay.
This conversation is really driving it home to me why all these billionaires are building bunkers everywhere. Like, I wonder if they've studied this guy's work and they're like, yeah, it's coming, and we're gonna have a bunker that we could survive in while all the plebs eat each other.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, we know that guy.
Yeah.
So this table honestly is a little frustrating because one of the first things that you would notice is the Roman Republic has specifically these dates from 260 to 27 BC. But when people think of Rome, they think of, Rome collapsed in 4 or something. And it's like, yeah, but Rome was a dead corpse for hundreds of years. And like, I guess the best example would be Spain.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better that hopefully me, and if I have any kids, we could live inside the dead corpse that is the American Empire.
Yeah, most definitely. Like,
nice.
The Ottoman Empire is also a good example. But Spain is actually probably the easiest one for us because, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So, like,
Sure.
They had their pioneering stage, which is taking over these colonies, and then the, gold and all that happened very quickly. And so by 1750, the War of Spanish Succession, like Spain had so many different things happen to them, like all at like over a period of 30, 40 years. By 1750, they were done. And so eventually the United States comes in around 1898 and defeats them. It's like, yoink. But like Spain had no chance of winning. Like, they were they're a crippled empire at that point, just like the Ottomans in World War I. Like, really? That was a joke. So this is like, for a lot of people, this chart is misleading because it's the rise and fall of their empire phase of not them existing, because Spain exists today. Like, it's just they have no power. Like no one cares about Spain. Like Spain on its own is not an intimidating threat.
Yeah,
They
I
don't-
never hear about anything consequential happening in terms of the world stage involving Spain. they're just kind of there. They're just chilling.
Yeah,
They're
no,
just chilling.
I mean, don't get me wrong. What can happen in the future is, the Spanish people can be like, "Yo, screw this! Like, let's build great things and do all that," and then they can eventually come back and have a resurgence hundreds of years later. That's totally possible. It's just never happened before in history. So,
Yeah, for sure.
okay, so yeah, this table messes with people, like England as well. Like England was, they were an empire, yeah, but they weren't the dominant one until they weren't dominant in the 1500s or in the 1600s. Like it was in the early 1700s where it's like, oh, okay, England supremacy, and yeah, they were supreme. And then the end of World War II happened, and that's it. They plummeted. And look, I mean, England is still there, but they're not even a shadow. Like calling them a shadow of what they used to be is an insult to shadows.
And it's interesting too. I feel like this is really the avatar for this currently right now. Piers Morgan is making the rounds after his interview with Tucker Carlson, where Tucker Carlson was like, "Say faggot, 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 faggot."
Oh my God.
Tucker Carlson was basically like showing him the decline in terms of the native population. And of course, this is a very uncomfortable conversation with Piers because he's, your typical neo-lib sort of quasi-progressive that just isn't down with wokeness. Because if you start talking about the decline of native populations in Western countries, you essentially you go one more step and you're like, well, the native population are whites. And Tucker Carlson was starting to point out about how the white population is declining and declining and declining, and is eventually going to be in the minority. And Piers just went, well, yeah, well, that's how we evolve. And my thing is, I made a post about this today. I made a post about this on Twitter, and I essentially said that. So Piers Morgan is talking about Piers is, basically, poo-pooing the idea of the problem of essentially like what, the big conspiracy theory, white replacement conspiracy theory. And Tucker was like casting that as like a bad thing. And Piers was like, well, I don't really care. And so I said, the left pretends to care about brown people so they can assimilate them into their ethno-narcissist third worldist Borg. It's only fair for the right to base their immigration on the exclusion of brown people because it is the most efficient way to disempower the Borg. And I don't know if you know Angel, but he's one of these brown people that they talk about. So it's like they try to.
Did I put my Mexican hat on, even though I'm not Mexican, but I call myself that because white people can't tell the difference?
Yeah, I would assume. Well, the progressives would just, they want to like assimilate you into the Borg. They don't care about that you're Chilean or that you're own individual. All that matters is that they want to assimilate you into their Borg. So it's like the way I phrased it was basically like reverse.
Hold on, now you got the right. Now you got the right mad at me. I'm not Chilean. My mom is. I'm American.
Excuse me. He's American. Yeah, excuse me.
You are from born. I can be president. Yes, I can be president and be a Manchurian candidate.
I would totally vote for you as president. But it's just fascinating because I don't know. It seems like you basically, if you stop taking people from like predominantly like Mexico and like Muslim based countries, it seems like racism. But when those people get here, they largely get assimilated into the leftist Borg because they like incorporating these people into their movement in order to bolster their movement, which of course ends up just hurting like these Muslims and these Mexicans because the leftist policies don't work. So you're basically, it appears as if it's racism, but you're actually reverse engineering them bringing brown people over here by not allowing brown people over here, which would actually make everybody's lives better because then they're not assimilated into leftism. I just thought it was interesting. It just came out to my mind because of what you were talking about. So I immediately thought to Piers Morgan and then went up from there.
Oh yeah, I mean, Piers. I didn't. Like I said, I have opinions about Europe and Europeans, and this is not the appropriate time to talk about that.
Yeah, well, I'm a schizophrenic, so my mind immediately goes everywhere. Continue.
I understand. My mind does too. And so like this next page is stuff like I sort of already touched upon and covered. Like Rome has two periods. Don't worry. Like we'll get into that. And even though like some of these empires are separated by thousands of years, the internal processes are still the same. You know, an Egyptian still goes through all the human life cycles that an ancient
Yeah.
Roman did, modern Roman or Italian does. Like, it's, you know, their clothing is different, but they're still wearing clothing. Their makeup is different, but they're still wearing makeup. Like, you see where I'm getting at? Like, this is the point. Like, and so I guess in a lot of ways, like, a lot of this like similarities between civilizations is boring because it's like, oh yeah, they all ate the same vegetables and wore different makeup and blah blah blah. But
So
it's this stuff that's
it's
interesting, but it's super dense.
so it's basically that the pattern is the same. The players and the cultures and the
Yeah,
specifics
the
are different, but the
aesthetics are
pattern
different.
is overall the same.
Yeah, the aesthetics are
Which
different. The political party doesn't matter. You can be an empire, you can be a
Hmm.
democracy, you can be a land empire, a sea empire. Like, it doesn't matter what you are. It still happens. Technology
This-
doesn't matter.
this honestly this works in my favor. This isn't my opinion. A lot of people have had this opinion, but it really does not seem that human nature changes.
No.
Which is right. Obviously we're like sentient apes that have souls. Hopefully we have souls. And it really just, it makes me feel a little more comfortable because that's the opinion that I've formed over these last few years. And like, I feel like any political movement that tries to socially engineer the immutable parts of what makes us human is doomed to fail, because you can't change human nature. It's always going to be the same. I feel like the best you can do is mitigate it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you can nudge it. You can nudge human nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult. And so, okay, so stage one is the outburst, and like, so stage one is really interesting because this is like the epic stuff in history. Like, how the hell did Alexander the Great conquer all of that? Well,
Yeah.
it's because, I mean, Persia was completely corrupt, and their system was too large. They had 3 capitals, I think, like, and it was, you know, back in the day, you know, having a empire the size of Russia. I imagine, you know, not as large as Russia, but like, you know, the fact that they have 3 capitals is difficult. So the fact is, like, they were ripe for a tough people to conquer them. And guess what the Macedonians were? They were a tough people that conquered all of Greece. They became a regional power, and then they became the hegemony for the quote known world.
It's interesting. Can we even be mad at the woke people? Because their whole thing is that we live on colonized land, and it's interesting because we live on colonized land, so they view it as stolen land. So now they're trying. They pose it as if they're giving it back to the people. That, of course, you can't give it back to the people that it was colonized on because those people no longer exist. So it's like, can you even be mad at the woke people? Because all they're doing is just performing their own version of conquest.
Oh, don't worry, the woke people are going to come up in the age of intellect. Don't worry.
Of course, though. If you are woke, the only honorable thing to do is to allow yourself to be colonized after you colonize the other group, because you colonize them. So it only makes sense that you would allow the next group to colonize you. That would be true equity.
Don't worry, these words are gonna haunt you. So he then gives more examples. I'm not going to get too much into them. The Mongols, Spain, Muhammad, and, you know, destroying this, just massive, not Muhammad, but the people after Muhammad, just massively having an Arab empire. So yeah. Now, so what's characteristics of the outburst? So what is true about these people, about these new conquerors that brought down like the old civilization? They are normally poor, they're tough, they're enterprising, and they are aggressive. Like, just think of the colonists. Yo, they were crazy. Like, they lived in, like, bear country was everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
at some point in early history, Virginia was the frontier.
Yeah.
Like in some parts of Virginia, like spitting distance within the capital, like that was the frontier. So yeah, that was very, very different. So these decaying empires were wealthy but very defensive. Then he gives the example of, you know, Roman greatness. The legions dug ditches, but they were dirt ditches. But then later on, and so like they had to like actively defend themselves. But then later on they got like, you know, wooden structures and stone structures, so they became defensive and stagnant. I guess that's his point.
How would you? Can you extrapolate on that? What was his point?
So Well, he's saying as Rome grew older, the earthworks became high walls through which access was given by narrow gates. Counterattacks were no longer possible. The legions were passive defenders. Instead of going out and like reconquering, they just had to defend what they had left. So
Oh,
that,
okay.
that would be like being taken piecemeal. Like the Romans of the early Republic, you take something from them, they're going to take it right back.
Yeah.
They're not going. They're going to be very angry with you.
So I mean, it gets to a point where I would assume it gets to a point where society becomes so built up, and I'm assuming the age of decadence is when everyone basically becomes complacent, and it's like, well, life's pretty good. Like, who cares if that one thing happened that one time?
I mean, one way to summarize the age of decadence is "I'm tired, boss." For real, like that's just what it feels.
I'm tired, boss.
That's what it feels like. Okay, so let's see. So he brings up other examples. So the people are enterprising, like they want to explore everything, go through like all the mountains. And if you look at American colonialism, like us or Manifest Destiny, that's exactly what that is. That's just like Pikes Peak and all that. You learn about the Lewis and Clark missions and all that stuff, in middle school and all that. So that's what that is. We're like, oh sweet, there's all this land available to us. Amazing.
Yeah.
So then something as well, these pioneers are they're willing to improvise. You see, they don't have books. Like if you look at American history, we didn't have an American Army manual until like some fat guy named, oh my God, von Steuben decided to be like, hey guys, you want to be actually trained in how Europeans fight wars? So yeah, like that's sort of what happened. Like we sort of did things on the go. Like we're like, hey England, we don't like you. Oh, by the way, we're declaring independence. Wait, what? You're doing what? You're creating a democracy? Wait, no one's heard of that. Exactly. That's why it's going to work, bitches. So and that's the thing. Like it's obviously at any moment that experiment can die, but like that it takes that sort of kind of audacity, because there's a complacency in how and if you're rich and wealthy, there's a complacency in how you think. If you're at first, you have nothing to aspire to, but if you're in second, you see where first place is. So
yeah. And it does seem like we are in that area. Or would you say that the United States is in the era of decadence right now?
I don't know. And so like that's not a good answer, actually. We either see it or in it. I don't know, but we'll get there. That's why I'm sort of like, I want to sort of push through the first 4 stages because they're pretty basic, and just like simmer in on the intellect and decadence part. Uninhibited by textbooks or book learning, action is their solution to every problem. And that is the opposite of what is true today. Everything is red tape. There was no red tape back then. At least in, I'm always going to refer back then to, to the US colonialism.
I guess that makes sense because obviously they put red tape in for other reasons, but does it make sense to put in a little bit of red tape because you built the thing and now you just want to maintain it, so you don't want people to change it too much because this is what you've built? That makes sense?
And the more you acquire, the more defensive you want to get. And that's just natural. That's just limited by geography. It's limited by a whole bunch of things. He then gets into like a little paragraphs of why do these outbursts occur? It's sort of part of it is you are mimicking the people before you. Like
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like you like, even you don't like them, but like you like what they built. You like their crowns. You like their roads. You like their way of governing, but you want to take it in a different direction. That's
hey, basically
from everywhere and make our own thing. Like that's kind of what it is. It's like, and he brings it up later on, and it's like it's really interesting. It's like different groups of people have their moment in the sun, and they contribute something to like all of human history. They leave their mark, and it's like, oh, we like that system worked. Maybe we can take parts of that system and update it to today. Yeah, maybe the last part's my interpretation, but the first half is like everyone has their, like every country, every continent, every culture of people eventually has their time in the sun. Every geographical place has their time in the sun. So
that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you're gonna, I guess you could look at cinema, and unfortunately, a lot of modern cinema, television, entertainment, they seem to be like ignoring the things that worked in the past and then trying something new, and it's not working as well. not going so great.
Actually, that's not later on. It's the next part. He's like, so it doesn't matter. Like some groups are good at philosophy, administration, and romance and poetry. And he goes further on. If the same nation were to retain its domination indefinitely, these qualities would eventually characterize the entire human race. And it's like, well, obviously we don't have those kinds of changes. So
yeah,
it doesn't happen. And I think that's a good thing, actually.
What about it is good? Can you explain that?
That I guess we have a version of evolution that is how nations evolve, or like how empires and nations evolve, because like at some point in history the concept of nation did not exist.
That's true.
So like things have been updated. Oh no, I don't want to, please let's not bring up Hegel.
I'm not even so as soon as you started talking about taking things existing that work in previous cultures and countries and civilizations and then incorporating it into something else, my mind immediately went to dialectics, and I was like, don't say Hegel, don't say Hegel, don't say Hegel.
I said it and I was like, oh geez, I said the Hegel stuff.
For the listeners, just if you want, I mean, look up Georg Hegel. I'm sure some of you know, but my original Twitter name was Hanging with Hegel.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
2023 was a little bit of a Hegel-brained year. Definitely Hegel-brained.
Oh yeah, that was fun times back.
Well, Hegel. Yeah, it was fun times. It was insane times for me, but it was fun. Hegel, like the Lindsay-ites and the classical liberals, Hegel is essentially like a modern day Satan for them. So like they take little tiny bits of Hegel that they don't like, and that's what they amplify. Now, I don't like Hegel because he is a lunatic who has this this sort of theory that all the different contradictions of reality will eventually be resolved and will sort of enter into, I guess you would call it, a utopia. And that's only a small part of Hegel, but there is an aspect to James Lindsay and his followers where if I looked at a Lego set and I was like, oh, you know what? This would be really cool if there was like a trebuchet looking thing. And then I changed the Lego set from what it was into some sort of new Lego set. They'd be like, that's really a Hegelian approach in building Legos, Patrick. Are you woke?
Right. But that's the problem. Maybe we're just looking at the wrong thing. And he brings Glubb brings this up later on. It's the self-sacrifice. The thing that we need to take is this fact that you succeed when you sacrifice to others and to your country and to your countrymen and to your country people. So I can be a little PC, but that's the point. It's not the system. It's not synthesizing some fucking legalese or like legal system or whatever. What it is just hard work, self-sacrifice. That's what it is. It's being unselfish. Congratulations, humans. We can't, and I think that's the whole premise. Like we cannot be unselfish for that long.
Yeah, no, that's true.
No, but everyone's selfish. Yeah, but
especially once you've built something up enough, and then it's yours. And the thing you want to do is protect what's yours at the expense of possibly the next generation.
There's different forms of selfishness. Like for example, I want to have $1 million. Like I want to be like selfish and greedy and have millions of dollars, but so I can like open up a school and show people how to fucking run a school and not like in the garbage way that everyone runs a school. Like that's the point. Like, yes, I'm selfish. I want to acquire money and status, but to benefit people who come after us. And that is the point. There is self-sacrifice in that.
Yeah.
And and we see this with, and of course, I'm going to say philanthropy that's been absolutely corrupted. But like the ultimate point is like, I made my money, let me give back. Like at that base level, it's fine. Let's not add anything crazy like George Soros, but that is not the time.
Well, that's always the large problem.
Opinions of Europeans.
That's always a big problem with these like sort of like philanthropists is that they don't just do things, these generous things that they do. They don't just do them out of pure self-sacrifice and generosity. They do these things with an end goal in mind. I was watching something. I was watching actually this which we're going to cover eventually, this video between a sort of more conservative right-wing Jewish man and then kind of like a neo-lib leftist sort of Jewish man, and he was basically like just constantly providing cover for the more extreme leftist radicals that are found within the Jewish populace. And he specifically said that like generosity, charity, this is a good thing, but the people that are sort of socially engineering society by pushing for these sort of like extreme sort of woke measures, they're not so much interested in like just giving money and helping in a way, in a good and generous way. They're more interested in the outcome. And when you're more interested in that outcome and you have a vision for society, I feel like you're just going to leave a bunch of other people behind and then not actually end up helping those people. You're more so just interested in declaring yourself God and trying to remake society in your own image.
Or it's a tricker. It's a trick to be like, oh, we're going to benefit all of you, but we're just going to benefit us. It's just multi-level marketing. It's just
it
like
really is. It really is.
It's really what it is. Yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's like I'm going to convince you to give me your tax dollars or your whatever it is, your freedom for safety, whatever it may be. Like there's that exchange that the citizens should really not take. So he finishes off this sort of section by being like, there's great initiative, there's courage, people are tough, people are trying new things. Yes, a lot of them fail, but a lot of them succeed. And these leaders, they George Washington didn't go to like British general school or anything like that. Like, his first mission was like, hey, go tell those French guys to stop building stuff. which started a whole ass war, but let's not get into that. That's a funny ass story though.
Well, sometime.
Oh yeah, like other time. Killed someone he shouldn't have, built a crappy fort, signed a paper that he was forced to sign, and then the French and Indian War started.
Yeah.
Freaking great. But he did, like, that's the thing. He was just doing things off of like instinct and like, some observation and maybe some like reading of tactics, but it's not like, it's not like he officially was with the British military. He's sort of like, yeah, it sort of didn't even work. Colonial militia was very different. So, but that's the point. They sort of had to figure things out themselves, and so they lived in hard times. Like going back to that meme, they lived in hard times, but that produced tough people. That produced really tough people.
Sure.
So now looking at the U.S. in the age of pioneers, so the U.S. is sort of different. So it wasn't like we just took over the ruling the elites of another empire and deposed them or anything like that, and then became the conquering people, which happened to Alexander the Great and the people after him. That's what he did to Egypt, or people who came after him. Ptolemy did to Egypt. But what the United States did was we sort of did a little different. So the U.S. arose suddenly as a new nation and spread, and its period of pioneering was spent in the conquest of a vast continent, not an ancient empire. So, but it says, yet the subsequent life history of the U.S. has followed the standard pattern which we shall attempt to trace. So it's like, yeah, the U.S. is a little different, it lasted a little longer, but immediately after that, everything is the same. Rapidity, the bleeding of the different stages, the people noticing, and the eventual, I guess, the point of no return. And that's the important thing. You eventually reach a point of no return of, yes, you can last for hundreds of years like Spain, but you're a shell of what you were.
Man, this guy made this work. He must have I'm imagining who was it? Paul Revere, the British, like this guy, the British are coming. This guy, I would assume when he wrote this, he's essentially trying to sound the alarm, is what it seems like he's doing here. Right? Like he studied all of this. This is where it's heading. Let's actually do something about it so we could avoid the fate of the previous empires before us. That's what it feels like to me.
So he then is like, actually, this is sort of interesting. He's like, empires are actually sort of good. They have their advantages. Establishment of peace and security in vast areas of the globe. Yeah, like established empires.
Sure.
Pax Romana, you do have your examples of that.
I mean, I know the British Navy was largely responsible for removing slavery from several parts of the world,
and
they
classified the seas. Like pirates stopped being a thing because of the British. Like, pirates now are like, guys with grenade launchers and speedboats.
Yeah,
but like, at some point, pirates are like whole navies. Or had like actual like ships that were scary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always thought it'd be funny if they did an accurate Pirates of the Caribbean with Disney movie instead of a funny, wacky Captain Jack Sparrow. They're just going around raping, pillaging, and killing people.
Oh
I don't think it
God,
would play. I don't think it would play
I
that
don't
well
think it'll play
with
out
the
very
kids.
well.
Yeah, probably not.
So then you get varied cultures exposed. Like you have the spread of varied cultures to many races. Like you do have that melt. What would you call it? The melting pot. You do have that. There are positives to the empire, but he says the present infatuation for independence for ever smaller and smaller units will eventually doubtless be succeeded by new international. Yes, empires are always going to show up. It's like China. It breaks apart, it comes back together. Breaks apart, comes back together. It's going to happen.
I mean, reality itself does seem to be like hierarchical. It seems like hierarchy is like built into existence.
I mean, also remember, this wasn't written yesterday. This was written, I believe, yeah,
70s,
in like 70s. So he's saying the attempts to create a European community may be regarded as an endeavor to create a new superpower. Oh, the European Union. Yes, they're trying to get Europeans to act as one. So he's on the money by saying that.
Yeah.
So if it succeeds, some of the local independencies will have to be sacrificed. Yeah, that's why England left, because they were being sacrificed. If it fails, the same result may be attained by military conquest or the partition of Europe between rival superpowers. Oh, like the war in Ukraine? Interesting. You see why I like this essay?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, what he's speaking here, it does seem it's essentially universal. Like what he's saying here, you could, like we said over and over again, right? The players change, but the pattern remains the same. So you could just plug and place different people and cultures and countries and empires anywhere, and it basically works. Like it works regardless of who it is.
Oh, look, and sea power. Yeah, from Waterloo to 1914, the British Navy commanded seas of the world. They were rich, but safe for commerce, prevented major wars for 100 years. Yeah, they did. And they also, like you said, he didn't mention it, but started removing slavery.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'll argue with like leftists and liberals, and they talk about like, right, the America was founded on slavery and the founding fathers are horrible and stuff. And I'm like, it's like like those are the people. Obviously, slavery is actually more prominent now in the entire world. But of course, it's not that way in Western countries.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's also a factor of like the population is also so much larger. So it's like, okay, yeah, but
it just drives me nuts when they're mad at like the people that are responsible, like the founders and subsequent people after them of high importance inherited a evil system of slavery, and then not always through virtuousness, but a lot of it was through virtue and Christian ethics, Christian morals. They were like, well, this is a bad system. Let's actually get rid of it, even though it can't benefit us financially. Let's get rid of it anyways. But then the leftists will met those people like, oh, it's so stupid. Of course, they don't even think about that. They're just angry at the thing that exists.
Yeah,
they want something else.
The founders, but like they didn't invent the system of slavery. Yes, they inherited it. They were,
yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to develop a sort of like analogy with AI and being like, hey, like, what if I was thinking like, what if we find out in like 100 years or maybe even less, like what if we find out like AI is actually evil and terrible and horrible, like it's just absolutely horrible. So they're gonna like the people in the future are gonna look at us like, you know, doing everything with AI, like how dare you, you're summoning the demons, or like you're getting like holes in your brain, or I don't know, like I'm just like making it as crazy as possible.
Look, but all I'm saying is that the best and possible only way to bring about biblical eschatological prophecy is through the advent of the creation of this kind of technology. It can actually manifest into existence, whereas before it seemed outlandish, but it doesn't seem that outlandish anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean the one thing that this doesn't factor is like the hyper technological, like, you know, route or curve that we're on. At the same time, what he's basically saying, if this is our like big hurrah of like our greatest technology, all we're saying is that it's already over and we're just walking the corpse. But let's continue, because I want to get to walking the corpse.
I love living inside the skin suit that is America. I love the skin suit of America. It's very comfy.
No, we'll probably like live and die in the skin suit of America and be okay. Yeah, it depends on what model we look at. So he then, you know, summarizes a little bit. He calls the outburst stage the age of pioneers. You know, these new conquerors, they conquer, and and they also trade. And so he says the age of conquest, of course, overlaps the age of commerce. So conquest and commerce go together. So you still have proud military traditions, you still have honor and things like that. You still, guard the frontiers. But gradually the desire to make money seems to gain hold of the public. During the military period, glory and honor were the principal objects of ambition. To the merchant, such ideas are empty words. And that's it. Like, even from the beginning, like, it is the love of money and the desire for self wealth. That's a destruction of everything. Like, that is eventually the destruction of everything.
Okay, commie.
Yeah, but the commies do the same thing because
of course.
The commies actually aren't even like there is no real disparity because the leaders always have more, because the leaders have to have more, because the whole thing is a lie just to make themselves rich.
It's also fascinating that if you look back at like the communist revolutions of like the 20th century and whatnot, that if you like dig deep enough, they're always funded by like extremely rich supposed capitalist people. So
right, but it's like, so for example, like patents, patents are basically like, oh, my cut on, contributing to humanity, basically. So one of the things is, one of the stories about Benjamin Franklin was he released a patent for like, I think like the Franklin stove or something, or some like nifty thing he could have made a lot of money from, but he's like, I have a lot of money already. Like, I'm really old too. And it's like, here, like that, we need that. You can still be a wealthy capitalist, but you'd be like, here, because you haven't, because objectively you have enough. And this idea of, oh, you can't say that, commie, it's like, no, fuck you. Like, objectively there is a point to have enough. The problem is your greed and ego grows with the amount of money that you get and the amount of power and wealth. So you always want more. You eventually get used to it and you're unhappy because eventually you just get like, you just get accustomed to it. Like I look at I remember when I got my second car, 2015, I was like, oh man, this thing is so advanced, technological. There's all these crazy lights. My first car was like a 2001. So I go up to the 2015. I'm like, yo, this is so cool. Bro, it's 2025. This is a regular ass car. So
that's what I used to like be very frivolous and just purchase dumb things like toys, like basically like that like a man would do if he like misses the 90s and early 2000s. He's just reliving his childhood over and over and over again with each new purchase. But all it left me was just feeling hollow. Like there's nothing there. It's not building anything. You're just looking to the past and trying to accumulate more and more things, and it serves no purpose other than like you don't even enjoy it after a certain amount of time because you're like, oh, okay, well that's the thing. I don't really care about it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our age of commerce. We are super wealthy. How to spend all this money becomes a problem to the wealthy business community. They're like, what do we do? We have all this money, so let's commission art. Let's build stuff. Let's create buildings. Let's create bridges and roads. So the rich merchants build themselves palaces, and the money invested in communications, telegraph wires and telephone lines, highways, bridges, hotels. So according to whatever is true for the day. And so the first half of this commerce, so sorry, not affluence, but commerce, is awesome. Because people are like, yeah, our hard work, the reason why, you have homes in all of the US is because, everyone worked for it, or like they homesteaded, or, they basically staked their claim in the middle of nowhere. Like they did something, they once again, blood, sweat, and tears to get what they needed. And so the nation is proud. Boys are still required, first of all, to be manly, to ride, to shoot straight, to tell the truth. And so like, because lying is cowardice, and that's I guess you can take that further. Like if you live in a society where lies are rewarded, that's a bad society. Like that's decadence. And then interesting. Boys' schools are intentionally rough. Frugal eating, hard living, breaking the ice to have a bath, and similar customs aimed at producing strong, hardy, and fearless breed of hardy and fearless breed of men. Like it was there to be tough. It wasn't there to be like, oh, let's talk about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the word is duty. So it's like, isn't that a JFK quote?
I think so. It also makes, I mean, it also makes sense why like removing religion, like in ethics, like it makes sense why removing those things would lead to this kind of like decadence and absurdity. Because like if essentially your money is success and status and God, those false gods, those false idols only benefit you. If you're like a true Christian and you end up making a bunch of money, obviously if you live by the ethics that you're supposed to, you're going to give that back. You're going to self-sacrifice. But that's not what, that's not, I mean, people like, you know, obviously the worst aspects of humanity are often amplified in this because people want to talk about what the problem is because they want to get rid of the problem. Obviously, there's still generous Christians and generous billionaires all over the place. But I mean, it's definitely a problem, this horrible secular society we're currently trapped in.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the JFK, yeah, it's ask not what sorry, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Imagine a politician saying that today. They would be thrown out of the stage. They would. Effigies, they'd be tarred and feathered. It'd be horrible. Like, how dare you say that? But it's like, yeah, when was that? Like the 60s? That was right after we conquered the world with World War II. And, you know, we were in our age of commerce / affluence. We were, you know, like building amazing things in the 50s and 60s. You know, we were going, I don't know, we were going to the moon. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's an amazing thing. Like
Supposedly.
Okay, like let's
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
That'll be episode 4 when we go there and break that fourth wall. No, I don't know. That might be too soon. But
we'll wait a year until we get into the really
definitely. But still, like he's still saying like there is courage. So like it's still there, but it's like the balance between honor, courage, and money is sort of like tipping. And I mean, once again, he straight up says it. There does not appear to be a doubt that money is the agent which causes the decline of this strong, brave, and self-confident people. The decline in courage, enterprise, and a sense of duty is gradual. Like he just says, money is the root of all evil. Yeah, okay. Like, but I like the layers he puts around that.
Yeah, that's great.
So he then like, okay, money replaces honor and adventure as the objective of young men. So like the first is moral. You'll do things for money. And now we see it as an extreme, but this starts, you know, like when did the mafia start?
I don't know. Right as soon as like a town was formed.
Right.
I would assume.
But like you know, when they became big, like when did bootleggers happen? Oh yeah, like in the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually, that sort of checks out. But like and you know, we have you know, corruption and mafia, but like it's so much worse now. It's like part of the government, you know?
It's actually interesting because if you take like sort of like the, you know, the dissident right, a lot of them are progressives and that they want to progress away from what's supposed to be the classically liberal free market model into something else. But if you just look at like constitutional conservatives, they just want to, for lack of a better word, remain stagnant, in that they just want to protect what they have. If you look at the leftists and the progressives and the Democrats, they actually do want to move to something else. They and of course what they view themselves moving towards is it's good and it's equitable and it's a better future for all.
They're not exactly wrong.
But no, but what the thing is like they're not exactly wrong in like that motivation. Unfortunately, the entire scheme is actually moving us backwards. They just don't realize it.
No, it's not moving us backwards. No, it's not moving us backwards. It's moving us forward to exactly where we go for our decline. Like all of this is supposed to happen. So importantly, and I sort of focus on this when I bring this up to my students, and I don't use men, I say people, but people don't want to make money for their country or the community, but for themselves. And that's important because that becomes another desire, or that desire deepens or evolves into something else. And so the age of affluence silences the voice of duty. Perfect. So yeah. So it's no longer fame, honor, or service, but cash. So he goes straight deep into affluence is the negative rebound of the age of commerce.
I mean, at that point, they do have a duty. It's just that they see it as having a duty to maintain themselves,
Mhm.
right? It's
And this is completely irrelevant because I asked my students this question, and they all fell for it. Like they all fell for all the traps that this man lays out for everyone. So no longer do schools aim at producing patriots, brave patriots who serve their country. They want parents and students want the highest salaries. That's it.
Yeah.
Students no longer attend college to learning and virtue. And so, yeah, he repeats the Arab moralist Ghazali from 1058 to 1111, complains in those same words. Like he says the same thing. And so it's really interesting how this repeats itself. And so, yeah, I mean, look at students in college. They're not learning virtue. They're not learning, they're not getting a well-rounded education. They're just trying to get the money back. And that's what's important. And so when I ask my students, like, what's the point of going to college? And they're like, making six figures. And it's like, crap.
Yeah.
No, we are at least there. So we're at least in the age of affluence. So that's absolutely true. We can definitely say that from there. Like, and that's the best prognosis.
that's the half glass full. I'll look at it. Yeah.
So then you have your high noon. So you finish. This is like the major inflection point, because like this is your peak of your lifespan. You're at your most powerful and strongest. And that's the thing. Like once you're at your strongest, everything else is a decline. Like what is it in humans? Like you basically start declining after your mid 20s. But if you keep up, if you have a good maintenance of your body, you'll be freaking a beast in your 40s and maybe your 50s, and then pretty strong in your 60s. But that takes more and more work.
Yeah.
And that sort of goes back to what he's saying. If you want to keep your body, like you want to stay at your peak, you have to be aggressive. You have to be with your exercise. You have to be aggressive with your diet. You can't be complacent. So like, I'm just glazing him at this point. Let me continue.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's. I mean, I'm loving this so far. It's it's slightly comforting to see someone marking this down and to be highlighting this, because you just see it wherever you look. You see you see this decline and see where it's, especially with social media now, we could just like witness it in live time. So
yeah,
it's a little comforting in a dark way.
So then all these periods reveal the same characteristics. The immense wealth accumulated in the nation dazzles the onlookers, and so you have enough of these virtues of courage where you can still defend the borders and the frontiers. And if you look at the US in like the 50s and 60s, like when was Operation Wetback? Like the whole thing of like sending like defending our borders and stuff like that. So like we do see examples of that. But once again, beneath the surface, greed for money is gradually replacing duty and public service. The politicians in the 50s and 60s are not the same politicians we had like in the 1790s. Yeah. And that's sort of the point.
Yeah, definitely less of a sense of duty. I mean, like, no, like Marjorie Taylor Greene is quitting. She's become insanely rich through politics. Obviously, everyone talks about Nancy Pelosi, but these politicians, there's no logical way how they're making all of this money. Like they're clearly not in it for virtue.
Like it's once again, like it's right in front of us. It's right, and the rot is there.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this like peak, what you have is you go from service to selfishness, and then it just becomes more obvious. You also become more defensive. So if you're super wealthy, what's the point in glory? What's the point in activating your military? The bigger your military is, the more money you spend on it. So, and he mentions Hadrian's Wall, the Great Wall of China, the Maginot Line in 1939. But what's really interesting is money being in better supply than courage, subsidies instead of weapons are employed to buy off enemies. And not just that, military readiness or aggressiveness is denounced as primitive and immoral. So having a strong military is evil. We can't go and conquer people. Civilized people are too proud to fight.
Yeah, especially if it's
the nation by another is declared to be immoral. Empires are wicked and evil.
Well, especially if the military conquest of the past that gave us this great lifestyle is demeaned as evil.
He says this intellectual device enables us to suppress our feelings of inferiority when we read the heroism of our ancestors and then contemplate our position today. We're just like, but Washington was evil and racist. But Lincoln was actually racist. He didn't believe in equality between whites and blacks. But it's like, but he's going to be remembered and you're not. That's why you're butthurt.
Yep.
That's why you're mad. You're mad. Why these people and not me? And that's the problem. It becomes about me, instead of wanting to contribute to your, like, that's the thing. Like, Lincoln wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to be super famous and I want to be all over the history books. It's like, nah, bro, I got to keep this country together. Everyone's going to think I'm a fucking failure. Like,
Yeah.
like it was heroism bred from necessity. Yes, he was the right person at the right time, but still, like, it wasn't for the selfish fame. Like, he got murdered because of what he did. Like, what greater sacrifice than that? But you will never ever see a politician like that today because the incentives aren't there.
I guess if you want to buy into it, Trump almost getting shot and then yelling "fight, fight, fight" is the closest thing. If you want to buy into the aesthetics of that,
a little blip, and yeah, you can say this. What like you can say that like whatever is happening now is, you know, both sides can claim this. It's like, hey, we're trying to create a greater America for the future. It's like, okay, yeah. Okay, let's see. It's not that we're afraid to fight, but we should consider it immoral. So we can have our attitude of superiority. But here's the problem. And this is so relevant to the whole, like, you know, immigration thing. The weakness of pacifism is that there are still many peoples in the world who are aggressive. There are some people who are in stage 1, who are in stage 2, who are trying to dominate, who don't care about global warming because they have I don't know, they have to fucking build infrastructure on the desert. Like, Saudi Arabia doesn't care about your global warming. China doesn't care about that because they care about their commerce and getting people out of poverty. That's what China's been doing. They're in the age of commerce, maybe entering the age of affluence. Like, yo, have you seen a Chinese city?
yes, I have.
Yeah, yo, that's impressive as fuck. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't like it aesthetically. It is funny when like the Chinese propagandists will post just all like the digital lights and stuff. It's like, ooh, look at the fancy lights. Like, they're doing this propaganda for China. But I mean, it is impressive, the buildings and the cities they're building.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Look, it's impressive. Like, but if you ask the average person, hey, like 20 years ago, hey, do you think that, you know, China's gonna have like 50 versions of New York City? Nah, there's no way. Interesting. Yeah. So that's something interesting. Like, remember, the West is at a different phase from the Muslim world, which is at a different phase from China, which is probably a different phase from Russia. That's another. I haven't even thought of Russia or the Soviet. Yeah, I haven't thought of Russia at all when I've been like in the past 4 hours or whenever I've been like doing this. I don't want to start. So that was create another freaking rabbit hole that I don't want to get into.
Well, like China is largely, obviously it's different, like with like was it Deng taking over from Mao or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember exactly, but China like has been relatively much more consistent than Russia. There's statues and paintings and portraits of Mao everywhere in China, and they largely still herald him as like a great man. I'm not sure that that's so true of Stalin. I don't think that that's true. So it makes sense why they would be like in slightly different stages. Because
that's a really good example, actually. The
USSR really had to rebuild. I mean, once the USSR fell.
Because I mean, actually, so according to Glubb, he would say that the Romanov period was their empire period, but he doesn't actually get into the communists at all because, well, I mean, yeah, he just doesn't get into them.
Interesting.
Because where were they in the 70s? They're still. They were going through a rougher patch, but yeah, that's the thing. That's probably not his specialty either. The Arab world is his specialty, and so you just see it in the reading. I don't even think he mentions the Romanovs by name except in that chart. Yeah, once again, it's always a weakness in the sense of duty in the citizens, and this will come up later on. But I asked my students, I'm like, which one? Who here if like we were at like World War, like we had a World War III or something, you know, like a repeat of World War II, like who would join the military? And like almost no one raised their hand. And I
Yeah.
remember I would ask this where there one time I had like a few students who were like American, and almost all, like it was like 5 or 6 of them, and every single one of them raised their hand, and like 20% of the Hispanic kids raised their hand. And I'm like, you see what I'm talking about? The white kids would defend the nation. Why not you? Oh, it's
Well, I mean, it doesn't help with how the previous 20 to 30 years of wars are now looked at, and that they're largely a waste of time and just made things worse. You know, at the same time, they're downplaying
Right, but,
patriotism
like,
and sense of
but, like,
nationalism.
okay, so like Red Dawn, like we're being invaded. Like like I even brought that up. Like, and even still, you had people who were here for less, like who have less of a tie here, wanting to defend it less, and that's just obvious. Duh, that just makes
Yeah,
sense. Like
that makes
I get
sense.
mad at some of these Hispanic people who are like, "I'm an American," and waves a Cuban flag, and it's like, "Yo, what are you doing? What the hell's
Yeah.
wrong with you? You're waving the wrong flag. You want to wave that Cuban flag? Go live in Cuba." Like, sorry, that's for later.
No, I get it. No, I agree.
So, okay. So he once again, 4 stages: pioneers, conquest, commerce, and affluence. So the great wealth of the nation is no longer needed to supply the mere necessities or the luxuries of life. So it's like, okay, so we spent all of our money on buildings and bridges and art. What do we do next? Schools, universities. And like he sort of, if he doesn't say this, is what came up in my head. There's this human need to conquer, whether it's conquering land, whether it's discovering new like depths or peaks, whether it's conquering in business, you know, like business is kind of like war. So is politics. There's this human desire to want to solve puzzles and defeat things, defeat dragons. Oh, Jordan Peterson, and just do things. And so this is what happens. Like, okay, we can't go and conquer people anymore. Like, we're not going to go and like invade, but like we can explore philosophy, we can explore science, we can explore, we can create new fields of knowledge. So that's what happens. So the merchant princes of the age of commerce seek fame and praise, not only by works of art, music, and literature, but they also create universities and colleges. And yeah, you see this everywhere. So 11th century, the former Arab Empire was in complete political decline. The Arabs were no longer soldiers, but were still the leading intellectual leaders of the world. And you also see this with sort of like the ancient Athens. Like, you know, they're like, philosophy, Socrates, Western thought, Plato, Aristotle. Oh yeah, Aristotle is the actual tutor of Alexander the Great because he just shut up and conquered all of your shit. Congrats. It's kind of like, and that's the thing, like it's sort of the once you reach the age of intellect, it's like, all right, at this point, what is going to be your major contribution to society? Because like we're just waiting on you to be a well done steak, which is obviously the inferior steak.
Obviously, medium rare, all the way.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. I did do medium well for a little bit when I was much younger, but I was like, no, this is too soft. No, it's not that it's too soft. I'm being too soft. Okay. And so he brings him something interesting. So when the nations were at the height of their glory, Harvard, Yale, Oxford, and Cambridge seemed to meet their needs. Now every city has a university, and so this seems to be like an overproduction of like the elites or overproduction of like the upper class. So it could be that, but there seem to be an overabundance of universities, and then it's kind of like, I don't know, if you take the average university kid from like the 70s and then compare them to the average university kid today, like the kid in the 70s would probably like be much more intelligent, be a much like harder worker and have much more discipline and would know a lot more about varied subjects.
I mean, like, what are you learning? You're going to school. What are you learning? You're maybe like you take a communications classes, get a communications degree, and then you know, I mean, and it's sort of like the study of what's wrong with our society seems to be largely being pushed to universities. So what, you're going to take a gender study, you're going to get a gender study degree, and then you're going to get a sociology degree, but it's not about learning how humans interact. It's about learning how humans interact and the systemic systems of death that we're all surrounded by. So like you have kids not only going for pointless degrees, you have kids going purposely for deconstructive degrees that are designed to undo reality.
Yeah, there is a subversive element that exists in our society right now that this doesn't get into, but the subversive thing is actually really interesting. Hopefully I catch it when we get to it. But yeah, he says here, the ambition of the young is what I said before. Yeah, you want to conquer something. Now he gets into like, these pursuits weren't bad. Like, being a tough guy, being manly created a lot of like early heroes and people we look up to. Opening up resources makes people wealthier, and wealth is good. Like, we don't we might look up to Washington and the founders, but we don't want to live like them. We like air conditioning and the modernities of life right now. So we don't want to go back to that. It's just we maybe captures essence of their spirit or part of their spirit or something like that. Anyways. And yeah, this little summary, like they all happen within 1, 2, 3, 4.
What happens within 1, 2, 3, 4?
These stages, like this, from pioneer to conquest to commerce to affluence, the extraordinary exactitude with which these stages have followed one another in empire after empire over centuries and millennia. It even gets to the point, I think later on he mentions like even fads, like things that just become like, if you notice like certain generations have certain things like they just pursue, like, and that's what the creepy part of it. It's not like this is controlled or something. This is just naturally what happens. Like, hey, around the age of 40, or earlier, somewhere around there, you start growing gray hair. It's just a thing that happens. Like, okay, it's kind of like how going back to like middle-aged men, like how middle-aged men suddenly like get an interest in an obscure part of history. Like it's just or start developing, or like dads develop dad jokes. Like it's just a thing that happens. Like I noticed that as it like. The older I get, the cornier my jokes get. Like, I don't know why. Like, it's just a thing. So these aren't bad things that happen. Maybe looking at it, like, you can, like, in hindsight, look at them as bad, but at the time, they weren't. It's just interesting how it follows.
So you could study empires and see the cyclical nature, and you could also just study each individual human and see them go through the stages of having edgy jokes to eventually having dad jokes, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just it changes. It I don't know why.
So to quote, was it Russ from True Detective? Time is just a flat circle, basically.
Yes, it is. It's great.
I gotta rewatch that show. It's so good.
Oh God. Okay, so this is gonna sound so anti-intellectual, and this is where things start getting like spicy.
Well, that's good. This is a place for retards. Despite the theme song, this is a place for retards.
We're 50% of the way, and it's like, okay, now it gets a little wild. The spread of knowledge seems to be the most beneficial of human activities, yet every period of decline is characterized by this expansion of intellectual activities.
Well, what is the composition of the intellectual activities? What are the intellectual ideas that are being spread?
Yeah. So age of intellect is accompanied by surprising advances in natural science. So 9th century, Arabs measured the circumference of the earth. 7 centuries were to pass before Western Europe discovered that the earth was not flat. Actually, that's wrong. Actually, that is incorrect. They did know that, but still he's still proving the point. And so less than 50 years after the discoveries under Mamun, the Arab Empire collapsed. So it's like, we can do all these sciencey things, and then the fucking barbarians show up. God damn it, the barbarians show up. Okay, no, I'm not gonna. Yeah, the barbarians showed up. So, wonderful and beneficial as was the progress of science, it did not save the empire from chaos. And that goes to a bigger point. You see all these people who are like, we're going to innovate our way out of this. We're going to produce our way out of this. We're going to use AI and have like not just minimum income, substantial income. And it's like, actually, your thought process, your because you think that we can take a shortcut on making great nations and empires. You think that we can be innovative or take shortcuts. That's the attitude that leads us to our doom, actually.
We just need to
That's the
start.
problem.
we
It's
just need to
your high
start-
intellect thinking that intellect can change everything. And I'm sort of jumping the gun here.
No, you're good.
Um,
I'm pretty sure we just need to start passing this paper out to all of our politicians at this point. Like, you guys read this really quick. You see what's happening. See what the situation
Yeah.
we're in.
So, as in the case of the Athenians, intellectualism leads to discussion, debate, and argument, as is typical of Western nations today. Now, it's really debates in elected assemblies or local committees and articles or the press. And so, what's really interesting is that these intellectual debates rarely lead to agreement. Public affairs drift from bad to worse amid an unceasing cacophony of argument. Yes, have we ever solved? Yeah, if you look at the political arguments today, many of them are decades and decades. Like, have we solved abortion? Have we solved the abortion issue? No, and we probably never will, because we're just going to talk and talk and talk about it, and that you're just not going to convince people.
No. The thing about the abortion issue that always gets me is that
wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
So, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good.
Otherwise, we'll be here till 12:30.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is another banger. This constant dedication to discussion seems to destroy the power of action. Yes.
Yeah.
Amid a babble of talk, the ship drifts onto the rocks. Mwah. God.
How much of intellectuals and politicians and influencers, how much of their content and what they say is just them talking about having a conversation?
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? It's, well, we got to talk about this and have a conversation about it. What are you actually doing? What are you doing to help us?
On another anti-intellectual thing, perhaps the most dangerous byproduct of the age of intellect is the unconscious growth of the idea that the human brain can solve the problems of the world. Even on the low levels of practical affairs, this is patently untrue. Any small human activity, the local bowls club or the ladies' luncheon club, requires for its survival a measure of self-sacrifice and service on the part of the members. Yes, if you've been in any club, if you've led any club, anything ever, with other people, some people have to do the majority of the work. Any church, literally any group, anything ever, like, that is true. It is just, and if you don't have the self-sacrifice, it's not there. Like, period. And in a wider national sphere, the survival of the nation depends basically on the loyalty and self-sacrifice of the citizens. Yeah, it does. The impression that the situation can be saved by mental cleverness without unselfishness or human self-dedication can only lead to collapse. Yes, every single time. So human intellect seems to be a great ideal, but only on the condition that it does not weaken unselfish and human dedication to service. But how technology makes us lazy as fuck. Like, you see, this is so contradictory. And so this is why sometimes, like, I'm just like, dude, this is what's supposed to happen.
Well, and it is fatalistic, but I get it. I'm fatalistic in certain respects, but I mean, I could only assume that the creation of AI is going to accelerate all of this.
It's not fatalistic. The solution is there, has been there the entire time, and will be there. It's just people don't want to do it. Why do I want to sacrifice for these assholes in the opposite political party? Why would I contribute to them? No, I don't want to do that. So we're already hobbled. We're already crippled. And that's the thing. Like, if you do true charity, you're not gonna fucking care who the recipient of your charity is. The whole point is contributing and giving back to the community, whoever it may be, whether it's a good person or the asshole or something. If they need something and they receive it, like, okay, yes. And charity can be a selfish act. It can just be to make yourself feel better. Whatever, I don't care. But did you help someone? Yes, that's what matters. So, like, let there be some sort of productive selfishness. You know? We've had these ideas before. Why did we abandon them? Oh, because we think we're better now because we learned ideas in a place called college.
I don't even think there's probably no such thing as a truly selfless act. I mean, I guess if you sacrifice your life, but it's like you're doing it because you love that other person, you love them so much, you want them to live. So, I mean, obviously there's different layers and there's different levels of selfless acts. But I feel like there's always something in it for you in some respect. But
so he even hedges and say maybe it's not the intellectualism, it's just correlation. and it just happens. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the causation is. It's just repeat itself. It's a cycle never ends. You know why I like this sort of thing? Because this is literally the whole like storyline to Mass Effect, that there's a fucking cycle to the.
Yeah,
to
I was
all
thinking
the
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just repeating itself until you figure out how to get out of it. Like there is a way, but it requires all of us together, everyone.
Yeah, together, everyone. But I don't know. I feel like the only way to get out of it is do your best and then you die. It seems to be the only way.
Uh-huh. The head and the heart are natural rivals. The brilliant but cynical intellectual appears at the opposite end of the spectrum from the emotional self-sacrifice of the hero or the martyr. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's it. You see, like, you see all these like elites, like these college elites. Do you think they donate to charity? You think they go and like spend any? No, because the whole thing is about me, and elevating themselves so they can spread their knowledge at their institution.
Yep, with a specific end goal in mind of what they want society to look like. It's always that's the large problem with if you look at the communists of today and what they're saying. Right. If you don't know like what their program is and all that stuff, you're like, wow, they just sound really nice. I could go back 50 to 100 years, and all the communists of those days were saying the exact same things. Like they sound like the greatest people ever, but they were still trying to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just appearing to be selfless and virtuous, and maybe there is some of that there. But I mean, the system itself always will collapse on itself. Although apparently everything will collapse on itself, according to this guy.
Yeah, because it's physical, and everything physical eventually falls apart. So so he spends a lot of time on the age of intellect, because like this is the noticing phase. Like this is where people start noticing things are not okay. You don't know when that's the thing. You don't know exactly when the age of decadence begins, because it's sort of it like looking at our case, we're probably in it. And if we're not in it, that just means shit's gonna get worse.
I think if we're not in it, we are very quickly approaching.
Yeah, if we're not in it, it's only going to get much, much worse. And so that's not a good prognosis either. That's not satisfying at all.
Imagine if they do institute some sort of nationwide UBI program with the creation of technology, the proliferation of AI. I feel like that'll officially be our entrance into the age of was decadence.
Maybe the manifestation of AI could be just there it is. And so something else that happens is another remarkable and unexpected symptom of national decline is everyone gets mad at each other more. Why? Like the enemies are at the gates.
Well, and now we can make up our mind about an entire population of people based on one person in that population acting out online. Did you see that one guy? Yeah, they all suck. So now we're just even angrier.
Yeah, like if you look at so he says here, if you look at the last few decades, the last 50 years of the Byzantines, like, hey, if you're slowly losing all of your land, you're being surrounded by all sides, you think you would drop your bullshit and work together? No, civil wars. Let's be mad at each other. Let's try to overthrow each other. And then the Ottomans are like, oh, okay, you just made everything easier for us.
Well, maybe it could be like a Game of Thrones scenario, and we could beat back. We could beat back the White Walkers, and the fascists can put aside their differences with the communists and liberals, and we could beat back the White Walkers. Although the communists, I would say the transhumanists and the posthumanists are the true White Walkers. But yeah, anyways, keep going.
So and that's the thing, like you would expect for people to drop their differences, and no, they're not. And so I've said this plenty of times, like to my students, and whenever because I'm like the only asshole who covers 9/11 anymore with my students. I'm like, yo, that tragedy happens, and we're going to like be kumbaya and like feel bad for each other and like be okay with each other for a few months. Never going to happen again. And then Charlie Kirk happened like a month or two later, and I was like, hey students, remember the first day of school? And they looked at me, and I was like, so was he correct in how we react to tragedies now? And they're like, this is interesting.
That's honestly the vying for power, the vying for political power in the vacuum that was left after Charlie Kirk's death it is just one of the grossest things I've ever seen. Releasing text messages, making podcasts about it, everyone trying to vie for their slice of the pie. I think
Yeah,
each
but
one
that's the
wants a
thing.
bigger.
But that's the
Hate
thing.
it.
I'm not
Hate it.
actually surprised at all. I'm
Oh,
0%.
oh my god, no! As soon as he died, I was like, okay, Nick Fuentes has been leading.
No, it's not even that. Like
assault
if you
on.
just look at it, bro, if you just look at how people fought over the fucking corpse of Alexander the Great over centuries, you'll be like, oh, Charlie Kirk is very normal and like not that, like it's not that insane when you think of world history. Like it's not as deep as you think it is. Like it's just people being people always.
Mhm.
So what's really interesting is he finishes off this section by basically being like, hey, like, you know, there's like these political parties have been rivals for a long time, but there's been courtesies that like people have used. And we see this today with like how Congress people treat each other. Like they get into screaming matches. They call each other like bad words. Like you would never have that in the 1960s or 70s. Like you just wouldn't have that. So yeah, you had that like, you know, during around the times of the Civil War, but you know, that was a very specific time. Like the and you see this with how people treat each other, especially online. It's like people aren't very, you know, honorifics, like calling people sir or ma'am. Yeah, okay, the whole like we don't know what gender people are is a contributor to that, but it's like we're not as polite as we used to be, and we see this not just in Congress, but we see this in real life as well. One other thing that happens is the influx of foreigners, and he gets specific to where the foreigners go. So, and he, you know, mentions Roman historians complaining about the number of Asians and Africans in Rome, Baghdad having, you know, basically everyone. And he says London today, like people from all over. And this is 50 years ago. So imagine if we brought back Sir Glubb today, and hey, look how correct you've been, sir.
Oh man, I feel like he would be very upside and wish he wouldn't be correct.
He would. He'd be like, "Damn, no one listened," but he'd be like, "Damn, I was right. Shit, I was right." That's the thing. Like, there's some people who like to be right, and there's some people who don't want to be right. Like, so he then says like, "Hey, like, there's not one race that is inferior, but there's just a difference, and sometimes too many differences don't mix." Now he gets into like, originally at first, you know, looking at the US, everyone was white, you know, quote unquote white, you know, they were from the same basic places, Europe for the most part. And so this creates a feeling of solidarity and of comradeship. And this is where you where you have the disagreement between like, is the United States a nation of ideas, or is the United States a people? And it's like, okay, well, you can make the argument of a people. You can. But in the ages of commerce and affluence, 3 and 4, every type of foreigner floods into the great city. And that's important. The great city. What's our great city?
New York.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most diverse. Look, who has been elected to New York? Actually, completely predicted. So, okay. So then, as in most cases, this great city is also the capital. Not so much in ours, but the cosmopolitan crowd at the seat of the empire exercises a political influence greatly in excess of its relative numbers. And this is a perfect example of New York City. Yes, it's not our capital, but it's the most important. It's more important than most states, actually. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. What would you say, like downtown DC, where all the politicians are, and then New York?
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting. So this is the people in the city, and so this is why rural America gets mad, and this is why everyone posts like, "Oh, look at all the area Republicans control," and then the left is like, "Land doesn't vote, cities vote, bitches." And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like that's why you call them the power centers.
Trust me.
Second or third generation immigrants may appear outwardly to be entirely assimilated, but they often constitute a weakness in 2 directions. First, their basic human nature is different from the original imperial stock. Not inferior, just different. Your culture prioritizes different things. Like there's a lot of independence in like white people, but for Hispanics, we have a very like familial community. Like we have abuelita in our houses. Like we have multiple generations in one house. That's just how we roll.
I mean, that's the best. That's the best model. That's what most people should have.
Like it's a good model. I don't know if it's the best or not.
I would prefer that. I would prefer that.
I understand, but it's an amazing model because
Yeah.
especially during a time where you want to preserve family, well, we Hispanic people have an advantage over the more atomized, I think I'm using the word correctly, among the more individualist white people. We do have a great advantage there. So where is it? So if the earlier imperial race was stubborn and slow-moving, the immigrants might come from more emotional races, thereby introducing cracks and schism into national policies, even if all were equally loyal. Hispanic people are hot-headed. Okay, they might take things seriously and might exaggerate politics a little and make it more like scarier than it is or something. I don't know. I'm just coming up with something from top of my head. But you do have differences with different groups who come in, just different dispositions, which is fine. It's just different.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just to touch on what you were talking about before, you said, that's the big debate going on right now, specifically on the right. Is a nation just an idea, is it an ideal, or is it a people? And to me, it's both, of course, right? But think about it, like what they're doing is they're importing a bunch of Muslims, a bunch of other people that are here for opportunities and stuff, but they're also bringing their own cultures, and it's not so much of an assimilation of culture. There's always been problems with assimilation with the little ghettos of Irish and Italians and Polish and stuff like that. But you're bringing in people more so based on race, incorporating them into your sort of a leftist Borg, and then they're just going to essentially adopt this third world leftist ideology that you foist upon them because they view themselves as like getting things from this. We're going to get things from this political party. So, like in changing what they always say, They always say demographics is destiny. Well, they're bringing in different demographics, and then they're all just adopting the philosophy of the left. So it's both. It's both.
Yes, I get it, but that's the thing, and that's the issue we have with our such personal politics that we have. It's so hyper focused that we can't apply it to other people. It's not just it's not just the left. No, it's the fact that the people who come in have different priorities. It's the people who come in want something for them. They don't. Yeah. And what he says here, second, while the nation is still affluent, all diverse races may appear equally loyal, but in an acute emergency, the immigrants will be less willing to sacrifice their lives and their property than the original descendants of the founder race. And you see this. So much. This is the question to my students. Who would join the military? Not many Hispanic students.
Well, that's why.
Well, there's two reasons. One, there's not as much loyalty to your original country because you haven't been here as long.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, look at Rashida Tlaib. Did you see that? Did you see that video of her? She's literally talking about basically look at all of the more progressive leftist Democrat, your Democrats in the Squad, your AOCs, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. When they talk about themselves and talk about where they came from, they constantly talk about nationalism and ethnicity. They talk about this all the time. So it's basically, that's why so many of these young white guys are getting more and more radicalized and getting more and more angry, because they see it's basically ethno-nationalism and ethno-narcissism for me, but not for thee. That's one of the reasons why they're so frustrated. It's impossible not to notice.
So that's the thing. The heritage Americans, they are willing to spill their blood much more than someone whose family has been here since 1959. Of course, you have exceptions. Absolutely, you definitely, most definitely have, second and third generation foreigners who will do the same and are in the military and have been for decades. And God bless their souls, they're more brave than me. But you just have less of them. Period. End of story. And that's just, if you deny it, it's like, okay, so a person who's never had any other loyalty to any country except the United States versus someone who has, you're going to say they're the same? No, you're just coping at that point. Third, and most importantly, immigrants are liable to form communities of their own, protecting primarily their own interests and only in second degree the nation as a whole. We look at Minnesota, we look at Hialeah, we look at and Hialeah is perfect because I freaking go there all the time.
Wait, explain what that is. I've never heard of that before.
Well, Hialeah is a city in South Florida, and it is the most it's among one of the most white cities, quote unquote white, but it's all Hispanic white. There's like 2% Americans there. Like, and yes, there are almost no white Americans there. I've searched, I've walked down the streets, not many. But it's a very like Cuban community. Of course, you have Venezuelans and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that's the advantage of Hispanics. Like we are like, and this goes back to his point. Yes, Cubans are very loyal to Cubans. Still loyal to Hispanics, but Cuban, fist bump, and that goes back to the preferences of minorities. They prefer minorities. Their own minorities usually, and white people don't, but that's another conversation. So fourth, many of the foreign immigrants will probably belong to races originally conquered and absorbed into the empire. This explained the Arabs. Yes, while the empire is enjoying its high noon of prosperity, all of the people are proud to be imperial citizens. But when decline sets in, it's extraordinary how the memory of ancient wars, perhaps centuries before, suddenly revive. Reparations, and local or provincial movements appear demanding secession or independence. Chaz Chop, brilliant, brilliant. Or free Palestine. Someday this phenomenon will doubtless appear in the now apparently monolithic and authoritarian Soviet Empire. Boom, he was correct about that.
I mean, this man is. He's a prophet.
He was so on the money 20 years before. He's like, what's going to happen? You're going to have all of these movements. You're going to have all of these people getting tired of your shit. Yes. And now we see it here in the United States as well, about 30-ish years later. And he's like, it's amazing for how long these sentiments can survive. Like, yes. I mean, reparations, perfect example. It's like, you're okay. And so, always goes back to the Roman mob and bread and circuses. That's another big thing that is interesting and huge. And so the interesting phenomenon is limited to cities. The original conquering races often found to be in relative purity in rural districts and on far frontiers. Yes,
dear Lord.
Yeah. And so it is the wealth of the great cities which draws the immigrants. And with the growth of industries, cities nowadays achieve an ever greater preponderance over the countryside. So will the influence of foreigners increasingly dominate old empires. Yes. So it's all happening for a reason. They go to the cities. That's where the power centers are. So you want to take it back? Move to the cities, white people.
That's crazy though, because all the whites are leaving the power centers, and then all of a sudden we have Zoran Mondani as the mayor of New York.
Oh well, I'm so sorry. And so it's like, the people who are like, move. If you're a Republican in California, move. Okay, all you're doing is dooming the other Republicans there to never be run by the blue team. So,
I mean, that's essentially the story of the last 100 years. The conservative right, the constitutionalists, they all kind of gave up and went home. And who took over? The progressives, the people that want to change everything. That's basically the story of the last 100 years.
No, it's crazy. Other examples, sort of want to skip through these. Actually, do I? No, I don't. No, I don't. That bad idea. Yeah, frivolity is really important. So once again, it's not that the immigrants are not inferior to the older stocks. They're just different. That's what it is. Yeah. For example, giving a charitable case to Muslims, they want to propagate their religion. Okay, just like Christians did. I understand there's a difference. Let's not get into it right now.
No. I agree with you at the overall point.
Yeah. So frivolity. Oh, I love this part. I mean, I don't, but so as a nation declines in power and wealth, a universal pessimism gradually pervades the people, and itself hastens decline. This is why you feel like shit, Patrick. It's because of everything that you have seen around you, and it's okay. It just says that we're right there.
Well, you know what? That's slightly comforting. At least there's a reason for my existential dread. There's a reason for it. And
other people have experienced this in millennia past. So don't worry, sugar buns. Okay.
This reminds me of the show Twin Peaks. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's a very strange. It's basically like a really deep, violent mythological show presented as a daytime soap opera, and there's this villain that keeps coming back and inhabiting people and killing them, and there's an ominous warning over and over and over again: it is happening again. This is all that reminds me of. Just immediately. Yeah.
So success breeds success, and so Age of Conquest and Commerce, we just carried from success to invention to invention. You know, like just think of like the inventions of the U.S., like the airplane, the radio, like the car, like the factory system that we used. I forgot what it's called. Like we created new ways of production. Like we did a whole bunch of shit. Like think like this is actually insane. If you believe it, of course.
This isn't this isn't even a matter of opinion. It just is.
No, I know. It's just if you believe we landed on the moon.
I missed that part. Yeah,
so we invented airplanes in like early 1900s, 1901, something like that. And then we got to the moon like in less than 60 years. That is psychotic. Like that's actually impressive. That's impressive as fuck. Okay, like that's insanely impressive. So, anyways, so what ends up happening is these successes eventually run out. You know, those people who succeeded, they pass on the torch to other people who then have different ideas, grow up in a different time, et cetera, and this compounds on itself. And you know, back to what I mentioned before, Rome. You know, they got their city sacked. 100 years later, they lose like 10% of their population in one battle. They get defeat after defeat, and they're like, "We don't care." Like the fact that the Romans didn't surrender, the Carthaginians were like, "Are they crazy? Like you got your ass kicked. Can you surrender?" And Rome's like, "Fuck you. We're never surrendering." But if you then look in the later stages, the whole empire was pessimistic. No one wanted to join the military. They had to depend on Germanic allies. They got screwed over by the mercenaries, and the whole thing, you know, happens all over again. Frivolity is a frequent companion of pessimism. Let us eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And you know, one of the things I find that is crazy and that's so like pervasive, and maybe it's, you know, because it's not my vice, but the amount of gambling that exists in the country has skyrocketed to a point where like, dude, it's not okay. Like random people I talk to, they're always talking about their fantasy sports and their bets and all that, and I'm like, I can't
watch one YouTube video or turn on TV for like 1 second without seeing an ad for sports betting or some other kind of betting.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like this is peak behavior of you don't care about the future, and you have this awful feeling like you're gambling. That's what you're gambling your future.
And doesn't it make sense in the context of what you said before? It's not even at this point. It's not like, if you take that example, it's not even that people are working towards something to build something for themselves. And they might be selfish about it, but they're literally just wasting money by taking chance on the possibility of a reward they're never going to get.
Yeah, and so what also happens is the public starts demanding things. The Roman mob, they demanded free meals, they demanded public games, they demand all these like parties and triumphs and gladiator shows and stuff like that. And what do we demand? We demand free college, we demand free healthcare, we demand free this, free that, free this, free that. For what? Why? Because we're such an evil empire. Give back to your citizens. And it's like, yeah, but why do you think we're in debt? Anyways,
yeah.
So something else that really is fascinating is the change of who you look up to. So judging by so the heroes of declining nations are always the same: the athlete, the singer, or the actor. The word celebrity today is used to designate a comedian or a football player, not a statesman, a general, or a literary genius. Yeah. Fucking facts.
Yeah.
And so I asked my students, I'm like, yo, who are your idol? LeBron James. LeBron James. Like, oh, so this is why none of you know how to read. And they're like, what? I'm like, have you seen LeBron James read a book?
I mean, so much of the heroes of the day who people look up to are just like, it's just like looking up to like vanity. It's not looking up.
Mr. Beast is a perfect example. Like, oh, I would be like Mr. Beast. Oh, you want to be someone that like uses people in long challenges to like touch a piece of grass for 24 hours and maybe shit themselves to win $100,000. Like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, what is wrong?
I've had 3 black people in like the last half year say that I look like Mr. Beast. So I posted on X that if one more black person says that, I'm joining the Gravers. So we'll see if that happens one more time. I'm just joking. I will not join the Gravers.
Yeah, so and this is probably the most like striking thing to my students, because like of course every single one of them, their idol is someone who is rich, someone who is famous, someone, like that, and it's not like someone virtuous or anything like that,
Yeah.
So so then he gets into the Arab decline, and like a different example there. I sort of don't want to really get into it because it's just repeating of societies that we are more familiar with, but I will pick out some things that are interesting. So the contemporary historians deeply deplored the degeneracy of the times in which they lived, emphasizing, this is fun, the indifference to religion, increasing materialism, and lacks of sexual morals. They lamented the corruption of officials of the government, and in fact, that politicians always seemed to amass fortunes while they were in office. Nancy Pelosi, Dan Crenshaw, and all of Congress. Why do you have millions of dollars when you get 180 per year? Like, okay,
Yeah.
perfect right there. And it gets even better because we see this. The historians commented bitterly on the influence acquired by popular singers over young people, Taylor Swift, resulting in a decline in sexual morality. The entire genre of rap. These pop singers accompanied their erotic songs on the lute, an instrument resembling the modern guitar. Oh my God. In the second half of the 10th century, much obscene language came into use. Obscene sexual language that would not have been tolerated in an earlier age. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the Beatles curse as much as like rappers do today? Like, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Yes, of course they sang about perverted, weird, probably illegal things, but like they weren't like fuck bitches and like.
So what you're saying is that the church ladies were correct.
Also, this is gonna be the worst part. This is the worst part of the podcast. I'm so sorry, but I'm just saying what John Glubb said. An increase in the influence of women in public life has often been associated with with national decline. The Roman, yeah.
What I would say is that specifically, if you look at leftist politics, they basically say global warming is here, climate change is here. There's not really any point in having a child. Carbon is being introduced in the atmosphere, and the more humans we create, the more carbon that is created. At the same time, they're working on destroying the nuclear family and saying you have to find a job, you have to find a career before you have these things. And so a lot of these women, either they have kids or maybe they don't have that many kids, or they have dogs and stuff. So I feel like women could be okay in politics, but the way that it's playing out, maybe it's how this always played out, like it's cyclical like this. They're essentially, it almost as if like their empathy and need for nurturing is being exploited and then being placed upon various quote unquote marginalized groups. And they're using this empathy, one of the best parts about what a woman is, in order to essentially help manage the decline of Western civilization.
And you see this here, and you see this here. I said I was going to skip the Arab decline, but no, I can't skip it. So what wrote one contemporary historian, even Bessom, have the professions of the clerk, tax collector, or preacher to do with women? These occupations have always been limited to men alone. But it was like, okay, it's unfair. And it's like, okay, yes. Now, do you want to be a judge because it helps the nation? Or do you want to be a judge because you want to be the first woman to be a judge?
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. It's very superficial.
It's like, are you doing it for the right reason? No, but I deserve it. Okay, stop. No, you don't.
One of the craziest things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, oh, I deserve it. Okay, maybe you don't, maybe you do, but it's like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for service or selfishness? Oh, you're doing it so you want to make more money. Okay, fine, no problem. That might be good individually, but maybe you've noticed if we have a bunch of individuals and they all make the selfish choice, that leads to the team suffering and a team loss.
Yeah.
So I get it. You want to exert your rights. But what if this whole like exerting your rights and wanting to express your individualism just because I just want to shit in the street just because, what if that actually starts leading to the decline of this of a great empire? Like maybe your freedom has a purpose and there's like things that you should do.
Also, think about these
and things you should not do. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Think about the supposed advances that are happening, the advances of quote unquote rights. Why is everyone more depressed, more anxious, and more unhappy than they've been in a long time? I know people have always struggled.
We have more rights.
Yeah.
I know we have more rights, but whatever. So, but it's funny. So it says like, women practice law. Many others obtain posts at university professors. Oh, wait, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So there was an agitation for the appointment of female judges, which did not succeed. Soon after this period, government and public order collapsed, and foreign invaders overran the country. That's okay. I don't know. Maybe it is because he mentions being aggressive and stuff like that, and so a lack of aggression and an increase in defensiveness and an increase in maintaining what you have seems to be less of an attribute of an aggressive male than a woman. So maybe I don't know. Like, and that's the thing. Like, because once again, these changes in of themselves are good. Providing more rights to people is a good thing until it's not.
Yep.
It's a good thing. Yeah, it is most of the time.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. So, there's a collapse, and of course, you think there would be a sort of resurgence or kind of like let's band together, but once again, there wasn't. There was not. So, and that's the thing. So he gets into like when I read this, I was like, "Yo, what the hell?" Like this is like this is 1,000, like nearly 1,000 years ago, but it feels like today. Just like how we're reading this, it feels like today, but this was 50 years ago, 40 years ago.
You know what? Someone will be saying that in a couple hundred years, hopefully, when they're reading this again.
Yeah, and so like the details are crazy. The breakup of the empire, the abandonment of sexual morality, pop singers with a guitar, entry of women to the professions, the 5-day work week. And he's like, I would not venture to attempt an explanation. Like it's mysterious that we just do the same things. And so it's this, like, these are the things that we do. So political ideology doesn't matter.
It's just going to happen regardless.
It's going to happen. So he says past empires show almost every possible variation of political system, but they all go through the same thing. Yeah. And he gets into the Mamluk Empire, which he's like, this is a good example because we have the start day and the end day, and it's like 250 years. And so, real quick. So their army consisted of Mamluks, which were slaves imported as boys from the steppes and trained as professional soldiers. And this is a good example because like it's such a radically different system to everything else that we covered, or everything else that you're familiar with an empire. So he's like the first 50 years marked by fighting with the invincible Mongols. Who invaded Syria. They defeated the Mongols. Wait, what? They defeated the Mongols? Well, yeah, because the Mongols like already had their Super Saiyan moment and they were out of it. So they saved the Mediterranean from the fate that overtook Persia. And then they also stopped the Crusades. So they were victorious everywhere from 1309 to 1341. They won everything. They were the best, greatest the world has ever seen. And then the empire collapsed in 1517. They were defeated militarily by the Ottomans. And so he's like, yo, this government system is insane. The system is basically a bunch of young boys. They're all soldiers. It's like a more ancient version of Prussia. Everyone's a private soldier, even the Sultan. And even still, their empire was 250 years. Their time in the sun was still the same, basically to the day. Then he gets into, the master race. This sounds scary.
Oh boy.
Sounds scary, but it's not. Like, Rome thought they were going to last forever. The caliphs thought they were going to last forever. People in England thought forever. Hitler, of course, you have to bring Hitler. Hitler thought forever. Everyone thinks forever, but he's like. So what this does is and this is probably one of the biggest errors in why people can't notice why all of these empires collapse, because they look at the differences like, oh, well, we're the Aryan race, or we have this idea of democracy, or blah, 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 whatever it is. So they carried in their blood, they believe, qualities which made them a race of supermen, an illusion which inclined them to the employment of cheap foreign labor to perform menial tasks and to engage foreign mercenaries to fight their battles or sail their ships. So it's like, oh, we're too good to do this. Let's just outsource all of our menial jobs to everyone else. Okay, so give your money to other people who are harder workers. You say whatever you want about Mexicans. Mexicans and Hispanic people are hard fucking workers.
Oh, insanely hard workers.
Like, we bust our asses off. Like, yes, I'm lazy, but one of the things I never do is I go to work every single fucking day of my life. Like, I don't miss work. Like,
I've worked in a lot of like customer service jobs and like a lot of restaurants, and obviously there's always a ton of Mexicans in the kitchen. And those dudes, they would come in for the 4 o'clock shift after they work their like 7 a.m. to 2 o'clock shift at the breakfast place down the street. They're insanely hard workers.
Mhm. No, yeah, and like, dude, it's insane, like the work ethic like a lot of foreigners have, because they're hungry. I get it. I understand, and yes, that's why we want those immigrants here, because they will supercharge us with more innovation. But they also must have the self-sacrifice that of the of people from before, and that's what we don't have. We want to tech our way out of it, or we want to like innovate our way out of it. And it's like, no, it's not. That's never the answer. That is the band-aid that'll help for a little while, but it's never the actual solution to a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look, we already see it. Like, there's a rotation from one nation to another, and it's just what's going to happen. Okay, let's see. Whoops. So yeah, because they think they're better, they're like, oh yeah, let's import people. And you see this in Qatar when they built their stadium and stuff. You see this everywhere. Even, dude, I don't keep track with Chilean politics, but it's like, yeah, they have an immigration problem too. Huge immigration problem. Massive. Because they're closer to Venezuela than we are. So yeah. So what happens is these poorer people were only too happy to migrate to the wealthy city of the empire, and thereby we have seen to adulterate a close-knit, homogenous character of the conquering race. So like they will dilute that, and okay, that's fine. Can you get them to believe in the ideas? So the where was I? So these conquering people assumed they would be the leaders of mankind. They relaxed, they spent then increasing time on leisure, amusement, or sport. And so this is another reason why we go to love the athlete, because I mean, look at the NBA, look at all of our look at all of our like sports institutions. It's more like the show than skill nowadays for a lot of these. Like, you look at basketball, a lot of like the top stars in basketball don't play as much because they want to protect their bodies.
And
things like that.
that's also how
Michael Jordan played every fucking game. This is why he is better than LeBron.
Yeah.
He's not bitch.
That's also how a lot of entertainment is as well. Like I've been watching a lot more movies lately, and there's some diamonds in the rough, but so much of it is just trash. It's like superficial trash with the same kinds of stories, boring characters. Like every aspect of the society, including the arts, is just declining. There's still some good stuff, but a lot of it's trash.
Yeah. So what also happens? So like, you know, basically the white people are like, oh, we're gonna be here forever. And so what actually that turns into, like, white guilt is related to that, but let's approach white guilt later. So, and this is interesting. The idea, I love it. Progress will be automatic without effort. That everyone will continue to grow richer and richer. And that every year will show a rise in the standard of living is one of the most toxic thoughts and ideas ever. We have not drawn. He says, we have not drawn from history the obvious conclusion that material success is a result of courage, endurance, and hard work. A conclusion nevertheless obvious from the history of the meteoric rise of our own ancestors. And that's the thing. The answer is there. But we're like, oh, well, it's been automatic, so it's going to continue to be automatic. No, it's not. So this self-assurance of its own superiority goes hand in hand with the luxury resulting from wealth and undermining the character of the dominant race. And well, what do you know? We have the welfare state. Because when Britain introduced it, it was hailed as new. It was behold progress.
Yeah.
However, shortly after that, England sort of is, they're not exactly what they used to be.
No, and that's a whole thing we're definitely gonna have to talk about eventually.
Seems to suggest that the age of decline of a great nation shows a tendency to philanthropy. Oh, these tech bros and the World Economic Forum.
I don't know what you're talking about. They don't seem to have any ulterior motives to what they're doing, and I think they just want to help us.
Mm-hmm. So this once again goes back to the whole dominant race has the right to rule the world. And now this is where the subversion comes in. So there used to be pride, like, oh yes, yes, we'll help you out, less fortunate people. But now it's guilt. It's like, oh no, we've taken this wealth from everyone else. We need to give it back. But you're going to keep me as a chairman of the institution, right? Okay, let's continue to help it's this self-aggrandizing. It's this like, I am better than you. Yes, all white people are bad. Okay, so give up your position. No, because I have to spread the message that white people are bad. Oh, so you're being a selfish bitch. Got it. Okay. Got it. You're in it just for you. Go fuck yourself. If you actually cared about the nation and cared about these ideas that would make the nation better, which are your own ideas, you would do it. But you don't, because you're selfish. So you're just lying. We're rewarding liars. As he said before, or maybe I said before, once you start rewarding liars, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what it is. We have the guilt. And then, Arab Empire, they're very generous. They had the whole free college started with them, probably. University students got grants. The state offered free medical treatment to the poor. The first free hospital was opened in Baghdad, and they don't have that anymore, do they?
No, not so
No,
much.
they don't. No, they don't at all. And so, free hospitals sprang up from Spain to Pakistan. Yeah, I would be surprised if they had modern hospitals there, any of those places. And so the impression that it would always be automatically rich causes the declining empire to spend lavishly on its own benevolence until such a time as the economy collapses, the universities are closed, and the hospitals fall into ruin. Yeah, exactly. Like all these people who are complaining, like, oh, we're not spending enough. It's like, eventually we're going to reach a time where we're going to be in forced austerity measures and we just can't spend. Like, that's going to happen. You're not going to like that. Like, you think it's bad now? Oh, te jodiste. You're fucked later. Like, bro, like we already know this. We are going to run into a problem with Social Security in the 2030s.
Yeah,
And
no, they're already talking about that.
It is 2025 and no one gives a fuck and no one's doing anything about it.
Well,
today.
the boomers aren't going to have to face that, so I think they just want to ride the wave out.
You know why? Because the boomers, in order for the benefit of the nation, maybe you have to take less in Social Security because you had such a good fucking bounty during the age of commerce and during the age of affluence, in the 50s and 60s. When you and the 70s as well, when it was good for you, it was easy. Maybe give fucking back.
Maybe they're just following maybe they're actually consciously following this guy's exact prediction of what's going to happen.
They're just being selfish.
They're embracing the decadence. Just embrace it.
Yes. Well, no,
Embrace
they're just like, this is mine. I worked for it. And it's like, okay, yeah, that was true in the system that existed then, but that's not the system that exists now. And to say it's the same system, it's not. This is why we say, okay, boomer, it's not the same system. I can't go to work part-time and go to college. No, I can't.
Yeah.
I have got a big ass loan because of it. Everything's so expensive because we're worried about the big bucks. And now universities are based in, the more money you spend here, the more big bucks you're going to get later. It's a fucking gamble. That's what it is. It's all a big gamble. It's once again taking an institution, taking something that was good and then monetizing it and milking it for what it's worth, taking out all of the honor, and all you have left is profit. That's why it's an empty shell. And you see this with musicians. This was all like Olive Rock. Oh yeah, their early albums are great until they sold out. And you hear this all the time. Okay, religion, your favorite part.
Love it.
So what he says is, hey, maybe the moment you start like providing a massive welfare system, that's just another nail in the coffin. So religion, decline in religion, absolute decline in religion. Okay, so let's see, where do I go here? So he defines what religion is. So he defines it in a very broad sense. Human feeling that there is some invisible power apart from the material world that controls human life. Yeah, there's less of a belief in that. And we are probably too narrow and contemptuous in our interpretation of idol worship. Yeah, in general, we kind of, especially now in the age of intellect, like we definitely look down on people who believe in like Sky Daddy or stuff like that.
I was like very ignorant atheist.
Honestly, you probably speak better to this than me.
Well, I mean, I grew up Like, I was baptized or whatever, but religion was never a huge part of my life. And then my mom became interested in like New Age, Deepak Chopra, Oprah, and all that. So I never really had a firm foundation on any of that. There's so much that comes with that. Like, even the kids that do go to church, the people who go to church today, they're not learning about like the church fathers half the time. They're not learning about why they thought the things they thought. They have no idea how to apply like the metaphysics and the like the epistemology of their own religion to their own life. So you're seeing all of these Christians out in the world that are saying they're Christians, and yet they're pushing for wokeness, they're pushing for transgenderism, they're pushing for like a theocracy, all these different kinds of things. And so it has essentially rendered them incapable of applying the religious teachings that they should have like absorbed when they were a child to everyday life. And it's like, I don't know what kind of system I want to live in. I don't know. Do I want a monarchy? I'm an Orthodox Christian, so I should want a monarchy. But to me, it's like if we have a monarchy today, we're not going to actually have any king. There's no king to take over. So for me, I'm just like, well, I guess I'll just wait for Christ to come back. Seems like the best thing that I could do, because he seems to be the only person or the only God who can actually be king in this modern day. So like you strip religion out of everything for this push for a secular society. There's multiple things that happen. Complete demoralization, complete inability for anybody. Like, if you don't want to say that you have to worship this God, you should at least be able to tell people sometimes you can't worship that God. You can't worship the God of progress, of equity, of gender. It is a false God. It is an evil God. So we at least need the ability to tell someone who isn't God. And that's been stripped from us. There's no, and that's when you get into a tricky thing. That's why the leftists will be like, oh, all education is political, all education is this and that. And it's like, well, are they actually right? Like, either way, all education is philosophy. Philosophy.
They're right. It is.
Yeah, all philosophy is downstream from religion. So like if you look at it, you see religion, like if you look at like the idea of free markets and all of this, it all comes from philosophy, which all comes from religion. So it sort of seems like we're always going to be pushing some kind of religion other than the other. And if you trick people into thinking that we're living this sort of atheist post-God secular society, another religion is just going to swoop in and take its place, which is what we're seeing. It's mandated state religion. What'd you say?
I was saying, call it whatever you want. It's just how we, like, the details don't matter. It's how we fervently believe in something, and and how much we'd be willing to go cancel people, kill people for our belief. And so, yeah, you can be a zealot for any idea. Absolutely. You can turn it into your religion. For sure. So now what's interesting is, so he mentions like, oh yeah, every country and people fight for their version of God. Like Genghis Khan thought that God like picked him to like extinguish the wicked. Like he was God's punishment on mankind. Like so he mentions that like there is a sort of religious context to the age of conquest. Absolutely. Like the best example would be the Crusades. So like at the very least, you have a self-sacrifice. Every single person who died in the American Revolution is much more brave than I will ever be. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. There's no way. Like, and I cope. Oh yeah, I'm smarter. I have better access to technology. Like I'm worth more in society because I go to school and I'm intelligent. And it's like, that's all copium. All of that is cope, man. You're just trying to feel better.
Well, I feel like,
hold on. You're trying to feel better because it's like the options in the past, and this goes to the meme. It's like, too late to explore the high seas, born too early to explore the born too late. What is it? Fuck, I messed it up.
I know what you're talking
born
about.
Born too late to explore the stars, born too early to explore. No, I got this wrong. Did I?
No, I know exactly.
Okay, we're gonna cut that one out.
There's variations on that.
It's born too late to not conquer the seas, and born too early to not conquer the stars. So it's like, oh, I'm a master in the video games, and so that sort of meme of like I can't do what the explorers did in the past, and I can't go to like the moon. What can I do now?
Well,
my only option is to like, okay, let me go into business. Oh, fuck, it's full of corrupt assholes. Let me go into college, university. Oh, geez, okay. Fuck, okay. It's full of, maybe 10, 20 years ago it was good, but now it's just full of weird people with blue hair that just like want you to believe in like their weird, outlandish, foreign idea.
What you're saying reminds me of like, in terms of your sort of like lamenting the bravery of like previous generations, and right, like imagining yourself crossing that river to kill your enemies as they sleep, like George Washington did. I feel like this reminds me of the Christian concept is to live in the world but not of the world. Have you ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically it's that like you participate in worldly life without adopting its ungodly values or priorities. So whereas we may not be conquering things and having to defend our households to push back the savages, we kind of still need to do that. We just have to do it in a slightly different way. So I do feel like there's still a lot of room for bravery and those things of the past that seem like a throw of the past, but it's different in our current modern world.
It's a different kind of bravery. We have to muddle through the discussions, and we have to muddle through. This is like why this podcast is important. We're like, hey, you don't have to pick between asshole A and asshole B.
Exactly.
And you can actually like pick, and not pick and choose, but like realize the half truths that a person is saying, because all of us are saying half truths, whether we know we're saying a half truth or we're very honest in what we think, and there's just things that we don't account for. Well, that's sort of different. You have to figure a person out. But still, once again, he goes back to his core point. The spirit of dedication was slowly eroded in the age of commerce by the action of money. People make money for themselves and not for their country. It goes back to, oh, I want these rights. I want these rights for me. Okay, how would the rights for you benefit the country? You can't even ask that question, because that's an inherently evil question. And it's like, no, what's important? Your own, like, what's important? Your happiness or the prosperity of the empire and the nation to continue on for multiple generations, so other people can enjoy the same prosperity that you fucking had. Like, yes, I get it. When you die, nothing else matters. But yeah, there's still billions of people who are still alive when you're going to die. So that's still going to matter. Just because you're selfish and you only look at yourself doesn't mean that like the experiment must continue. And just because you end doesn't mean the experiment ends. It means the experiment must survive you. You can't be that important to a country or a nation, because then it'll fall.
I guess that was a lot of Christians give him grief because he was like a deist and a Freemason, but that was kind of like a point that George Washington made, right? He the people wanted him to continue to be the leader of the country. He's like, no.
He was a deist. Okay, but did he sacrifice multiple decades and like not be rewarded as he should? Yeah, he was given a lot of shit. Yeah, he died much more prematurely, of course. That was because he was kind of did something he shouldn't have, and the doctor sucked. But still, like, it would have been nice for George Washington to have retired for like 20, 30 years, like made new breeds of dogs, like maybe it discovered some new shit, like died at 95 or something. But no, that didn't happen to him. So, but you have assholes today who are rich and famous and wealthy, and and die at 95 and die at 99 when they've been.
I can't even begin to imagine what like the elite of society have in terms of technological innovations. Like they just don't die. They just don't die. They never die. When's George Soros going to die? When's he going to die?
So while a despair might permeate the greater part of a nation, others achieved a new realization of the fact that only readiness for self-sacrifice can enable a community to survive. Yeah. Some of the greatest saints in history lived during the times of national decadence, raising the banner of duty and service against the flood of depravity and despair. In this manner, at the height of vice and frivolity, the seeds of religious revival are quietly sown. And you see this today. Like just with like I said, in the 10 years I've been teaching, I've been at non-religious schools the whole time, whether it's public, private, or charter. I have never seen so many students bring the Bible and just fucking refer to the Bible in animal form. Like,
that's
what?
legit. That's legit.
No, it is. I'll just repeat it. I've told you before, but in animal form, it says the symbol or like the feature is the hand, because it is what causes human mischief. And then immediately, like 2 seconds later, girl raises her hand, opens the Bible, has it highlighted, points at it. It's like, oh yeah, like it says here in the Bible, where actually like the defining feature of a man is his heart. And I was like, what the fuck?
Man, I wish I could have been that wise when I was that young.
I was just like, huh? I had to sit down. I was just like, I put my elbow on the table. I was just looking at them like, I was like, you don't understand like how shook you've made me right now. Like, damn.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's really cool to see that. And you can say you're in an insular community or whatever. I've never seen this before. It's not a continual push towards atheism. There's a pushback, and it's like, these trends that we think are permanent are not. They're not at all permanent. And I think that's part of human wisdom, is to be like, some things repeat themselves. It's just which ones and how are they flavored differently.
And I love that too, because that actually goes to a big argument that's being had, specifically online, right, in terms of who's going to be in charge of shaping the minds of the future. The fact that children are doing that just in your classroom is really hopeful to me, that they're turning to those sort of like ancient wisdoms. It's just a matter of, who are they going to follow? Are they going to be following someone that is virtuous, that actually extols the principles of their religion or philosophy, that can help, sort of reshape Western society to save it from burning itself down?
Mhm.
It's like the massive question that's happening right now on the right. Just brings it to mind.
Yeah. So he then basically mentions that different groups have taken over at different times. And every empire's rise and fall has very different like inputs of why it happened, and what comes from that. And now we're sort of like in a society especially now we're in more of a world society. We're in constant flux, and so he said in the last 60 years to England, a lot of people from Europe, Asia, Africa. And so the US, he doesn't mention the US as like very much as he should, or not as he should, but like I wish he mentioned it more so it could make more sense to us, because it makes a lot of sense from the British perspective, because he was talking about this during like the obvious, like Britain has long been like for at least a decade and a half, like from their peak, and it was a very slow fall.
What's interesting is that there's a lot of evidence out there. You could read this in like Carol Quigley's books, that a lot of what's going on in the world in terms of the whole like globalist woke thing is largely the fault of British elites, and they're purposely doing it. So like in the same way that America is in a managed decline, so is like the UK. They're just doing it in a slightly different way. It involves like the Fabian socialists. They created the Labour Party. That's a whole episode we're going to have to do. That's a whole episode. That's a whole episode.
When you say managed decline, it feels like people are doing it on purpose.
Some of them are.
It's not there is there's something to that, but like definitely for this, and I sort of want to adopt this attitude just in general. It's just very difficult because remember, we hyper focus on the details, and this specifically is zoom out and realize that yes, the reasons are different, but the behavior is exactly the same. So look for the behavior, and that's what counts.
For sure. But I'm just saying that they openly talk about at their meetings how they're trying to push the world into like sort of like a different phase, right? What do they always call it? The Great Reset.
Yeah, and of course that once again, that's something that like this doesn't account for, because it was the 70s. But even still, I don't know why I got that. Damn, I lost my train of thought. Like even still, like they're going, like what they're doing is we call them the globalists, right?
Sure.
Okay. They are trying to create a new empire. Yeah. Geographically, I don't know where it is exactly. Let's just say Europe. Let's say based in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they want to conquer people. They're doing that, but institutionally, like with systems and like the global tentacles of power and stuff like that, and controlling the money system, controlling the flow of cash with NGOs and stuff like that. Okay. Your system will then take over a large part of the globe with digital ID or something like that. So you will have a boost in your economy just because you have a different system. Okay, so that would be, so you have pioneers, and then you have the age of conquest. Don't know how that's going to happen, but then the age of commerce, you will have a system there, and then, but you'll still have the same things occur. Like Yeah, and the thing is, this would probably be like hyper focused because you're basically taking a bunch of elites in the world and you're creating a society based on those elites. But that's the thing; those elites are already decadent. Like that's the issue. And another wrench in this is the fact that he doesn't talk about bad actors.
You mean like in terms of like people like manipulating certain things,
like accelerationists?
Well, and honestly, that makes sense that he wouldn't talk about that, because I mean, like what he's talking, he mentions specific things, but it's about the overall system, the cyclical nature of it.
And it's not that. What he's saying is there's an inertia. There is like this progress that starts when you conquer and then you profit and then you do all this, but then money for me and not for thee. And that's where everything goes wrong. Okay. So he says the decadence is the disintegration of a system. It's not the people, it's the system. So the habits of the members of the community have been corrupted by the enjoyment of too much money and too much power for too long of a period. So the result has been, in the framework of their national life, to make them selfish and idle. A community of selfish and idle people declines. Internal quarrels develop in the division of its dwindling wealth, and pessimism follows, which some of them endeavor to drown in sensuality or frivolity. This talks about the gambling, of increased drug taking and, being dependent on chemicals, not just, illegal chemicals, but legal chemicals, antidepressants, SSRIs, and things like that. And that's the thing. I didn't fully explain it. The thing about like the elites is, and it's sort of mentioned here, in your surroundings, you can't redirect your thoughts and energies to new channels. So it's like, if you're stuck here in the US in this period of late age of intellect or early age of decadence, you feel like, oh, there's no way out. Everyone's corrupt. Everyone's a piece of shit. Blah blah blah. But what he's saying here is, just move, go to a new place. And you see this with some people who are like, oh, I moved to Thailand, or I moved here, I moved that, and like the society is different. Well, yeah, because the society you move to is at a different stage. Even if they're an empire, they're at a different stage. You might be going to a place that has no empire. That's the thing. There are many places in the world that don't have an empire and don't necessarily fit in this mold. So, like, if you're a small island nation, like it's very different because you don't have control of the world or control of a region or something like that. All of this happens because you get too much. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, this is just another iteration of that truth.
Yeah.
And so once enabled to break away from their old channels of thought, and after a period of readjustment, they become normal citizens of their adopted countries. So they just need to change their surroundings. The problem with the World Economic Forum and the problem with this new digital empire that will be created is you're not leaving your old channels of thought, because the empire is not the geographic area. It's attached to your phone. The empire is attached to social media and Twitter. So that's going to be interesting, because that empire will be different. That's such a good point. It'll be much shorter. So, and this goes back to what you said before. We can stop all this bullshit by putting our phones down.
Yep.
Yeah. And he says it right here. We just have to leave our old thoughts. Okay, drop your phone.
Yeah, the old thoughts are the phones.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, isn't that crazy? The old thoughts are the phone.
You brought it back. You brought it back to the first episode. That's insane. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So what you're saying is that we're not going to drop our phones, so there's nowhere to run to, and so there's nowhere to go.
Correct. So
I wish I didn't stop drinking.
Readjustment, yeah. And so, but that's the thing. So, and some of them in the second and third generations may attain preeminence in leadership in their new communities. So this cycle happens over and over again. This seems to prove that the decline of any nation does not undermine the energies of the basic character of its members. Yeah, because you still have productive members. You just have a lot of corrupt assholes. Nor does the decadence of a number of such nations permanently impoverish the human race. I mean, yeah, we've declined, but China hasn't. Decadence is a mental and moral deterioration produced by the slow decline of the community from which the members cannot escape. Oh no, we
Oh
cannot
my
escape the prison of our phones. And as long as they remain in their old surroundings, that's going to happen. But taken somewhere else, they discard their decadent ways of thought and prove themselves equal to the other citizens of the adopted country.
Wait.
And what is amazing is this is actually a complete reference to Universe 25, I believe, the rat experiment, where you basically had, and this is perfect, this is exactly the application of John Glubb is Universe 25. You give the rats in this community more food than they need. You give them everything they want. And so what happens? They don't forage, they don't scavenge, they don't exercise, they become lazy pieces of shit. And it's everything is horrible.
Isn't it amazing? I mean,
It's
it's just
society declines because they give up. That's the thing. The rats give up on breeding. The rats give up on eating. They give up on everything except making themselves look good. What the hell do you think we're doing by just like, oh, let me not have kids and try to extend my beauty until the age of 80 and have more plastic on me than actual like skin? Like
instead of making a meal for myself with like, various ingredients, let me just order something from Grubhub.
And why? Because it's convenient. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I want more time to myself. I don't want to spend time cooking food where I can be selfish and tweet more or do whatever I want or like play games or whatever. It goes back to me. And because I want to serve me, I'm not going to serve the nation.
Yeah.
This is a very Christian essay.
It really is.
It is. It's a spirit of self-sacrifice. It is
Charity,
eternal
selflessness.
spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. So neither is the decadent physical. So it's funny. The citizens of nations in decline are described to be as too physically emasculated to bear the hardships or make great efforts. Isn't that true? Isn't that true?
Yeah.
This does not seem to be a true picture. Citizens of citizens of great nations in decadence are normally physically larger and stronger. Bro, look at all of our meatheads. Like, look at Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Do you think anyone in colonial times was as ripped as him? Oh,
No.
absolutely not, because it was impossible because of the technology that we have. But still, like, you just look at like today, like we have a bunch of strong people. But what's interesting is that strength is just for illusion.
Well,
that strength was created for your own self vanity and selfishness. Why do you have big muscles? So you can attract women and make more money. Of course.
And not only that,
you're not exercising because it's like, oh, I have to train because I'm in the military and I have to, like we're gonna have to march for a long time or anything like that. It's for selfish reasons.
And not only that, but just in terms of, we've been talking about like kind of like superficial things you're talking about for selfish reasons. All of these really jacked guys, like pushing, like as you're on the bench, right? And you're doing chest presses, and it's like, yeah, man, I could do like 10 sets of 325. That's a very impractical form of strength. How many times are you going to be on your back having to push something off you? I suppose if a giant metal beam falls on you, then you're in a great spot. But these people like don't have, a lot of them, they're just like, these are superficial muscles with actual strength that doesn't actually apply to things you do in the world. So it's just like another form of decadence. Oh
yeah, because it's not functional. It's aesthetic.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's see. I keep on losing myself. Oops. So as was proven in Britain in the First World War, young men brought up in luxury and wealth found life difficult in accustoming themselves to lives on the frontline trenches. Yeah, of course. Makes sense.
Yeah.
History of exploration. Men shows the same point. Men accustomed to comfortable living in homes in Europe and America were able to show as much endurance as the natives in riding camels across the desert, hiking the way through tropical forests. So, interesting. So yeah, the people early on can like, they still have some hardships. So decadence is a moral and spiritual disease resulting from too long a period of wealth and power, producing cynicism, decline of religion, pessimism, and frivolity. Yeah.
Can I say that that's okay. There is no more decadent. There is no greater example. And I always harp on it because I have to, because it's my bread and butter. There is no greater example of decadence than transgenderism. Imagine being.
I thought you were going to say transhumanism.
Well, that's what transhumanism, transgenderism. Just imagine, like, you're so comfortable that you begin questioning not just who you are in terms of your development, but you start taking on a new identity and exploring your gender. That's why I always say that it's so anti-truth, because imagine some guy who cuts his dick off and grows breasts and wears high heels and his bones are frail because the chemicals he's been injected into. Imagine if a giant electromagnetic pulse hits. How long is that guy going to survive? Now, if you take the blue collar guy who wears blue jeans and a flannel shirt and has a traditional family and lives off the land, that dude's going to do great. He's going to have to fight off people that are going to be stealing his resources. Meanwhile, that poor trans woman, he'll be eaten in the first day if anyone would want to eat him. It's the most decadent. It's the most decadent thing that I think that has ever existed. I haven't looked too close into it. I haven't looked too closely into it, but I believe when Rome fell, they started exploring a similar concept of gender. I need to look into that, because that plays right into what we're talking about in terms of the cyclical nature of societies falling. There has to be a book out there about the sort of gender that they were exploring and the whole androgynous nature of it all. I have to look into that.
Mm-hmm. And he ends his section with a banger, basically saying the citizens of a nation will no longer make an effort to save themselves because they are not convinced that anything in life is worth saving. And I cannot tell you how many times I felt that way. I've just been like, everything sucks. Can we just press the reset button? And you see this from people from both sides. You see this from the foreigners who are coming in and saying like, America is evil, has a terrible past, and we need to remake it. Okay.
That's just pure demoralization.
Yeah, it is. It is very demoralizing, but it's like those people aren't wrong because they were subjugated by the empire. Like if I lived in Iraq and I came to the US, yeah, I'd be fucking mad at the US. You fucking bombed me.
Yeah.
Of course I'd be mad. But remember, so why are we accepting them? Because we feel that we are better. We have a quote better country, right? So and we bombed them. Now we feel bad. Oh, let's bring them in. Let's give them something because we have this guilt. We have this white guilt that we are the oppressors, that we are the empire, and that we did things that are wrong. And we're trying to make up for our past. And because we have all this money, we can give it to you and say fuck you to our citizens.
I did want to say that I think that there was an equal exchange. We bombed their country, but we did put a McDonald's there. So honestly, I feel like I consider us even. And also, Blight, I did want to unload based on everything you're saying right now that you are white. You benefit from the system of whiteness, and welcome to the brotherhood. I like having you here. I really appreciate you.
This is just an aside that if the extreme left takes over, I'm an evil white man, and if the extreme right takes over, I'm a freaking beaner.
Really quick though,
who should be going and get deported. So it's like I don't win. Like I never.
No. First off, if the extreme right takes over, I will like take you as like my house Chilean guy. But if the left takes over, I'll be okay if you start screaming "Burn Whitey." I'll understand. It's fine. I'll understand.
Yeah, but I'm not. Like, I'm not going to do that. So
I know. Well, you and I will be in the same gulag. It'll be great.
Oh, okay, fine.
We can record the podcast in the gulag.
Oh my god, how perfect! Yes! Because it's going to be a digitally advanced technological gulag.
Gulag. Well, I mean, I hope that they put our pods next to each other so you and I could eat from the same bug trough. That's what I hope.
Yeah. So and like just a disclaimer, and like I should have made it obvious, but like at the same time I don't like kind of like dumb disclaimers because it's like we're exploring ideas and like you should just have fun in exploring the idea because some things are on the money and some things maybe are a little off. But I don't know, everything, especially from intellect to decadence, has been true for us. Now, of course, humans are different. We can't like to say that it's 250 years and if you're off of it by like 10 or 20 years or even like 50 years then it's wrong. No, because the process is still the same. Like just because someone lives 120 years doesn't remove the fact that the average lifespan is like 70 or 80 depending on where you live or less in other countries. So that's just part of it. So part of the diversity is just going to be there. And he says there's some value in comparing the lives of nations to those of individuals. So no two persons are identical and their lives are affected by accident, but generally we have the same things: childhood, adulthood, youth, middle age, old age. We know what happens during that time. We know what the midlife crisis is. We know all of these things.
Wait. The name of Rome, originally a city-state, passed from it to an equalitarian international empire. That's what always happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Rome was like, oh, let's give citizenship to everyone. Yeah, we've been oppressing these people.
That's
and it's
crazy,
like,
man.
oh, wait, these new citizens don't have the same desire to. Oh, fuck. Okay, they're more selfish. Oh, it's not more selfish. That's the thing. The selfishness of the original group makes sense because that's both like it's selfish, yes, but it's also a virtue because they're pushing for what they want. But then you get a new culture that has different priorities, and that's where the splinters start occurring. Not because one is superior, because they have different priorities, different strength, and different things they want to focus on.
And I mean, and Christopher Rufo is doing work. He's been doing this work forever, but like basically what he's trying to do, and it's going to take forever, but he's trying to essentially expel the people that are sort of largely responsible for this decline in empire of America. And he's like, he got a lot of grief for it because he said there's something to look at. What's his name? That Marxist Gramsci, about Gramsci, and somebody else said it too. But basically, the march through the institutions, you have to slowly capture the institutions, and there's truth to that. And then James Lindsay and his followers started calling Rufo a Marxist, and it's like, yeah, but it like people are smart and we're individuals, but we're also very susceptible to conditioning. If like say for like the black populace, right? They largely have a sort of a story of being oppressed, and then they try to overcome oppression, but then they keep being oppressed. It like you can give these different groups different stories, and it's evil. Literally, I mean, I don't know if it's evil, but it sounds like it's basically manipulating people into viewing their existence in a different way, and giving them a story of triumph and of strength instead of one of constantly being oppressed. It's very easy. It's easy to do. You don't need that much propaganda to get that across, because people will be like, okay, well, we trust these people and we'll listen to them. It's possible. How do you do it? How do you do it when I suppose the enemy controls everything?
The thing is, it's been impossible to write this. It's just like the quest for human immortality. Like, maybe it's not possible. Maybe it's just not.
Yeah. I suppose that's my idealistic utopian thinking.
It's also at the same time the most pessimistic, because that just means all the greatness you built eventually will be nothing. And that's sort of like the Ozymandias poem. I forget exactly, but it's like, look upon my greatness, and it's like, yeah, you're just stuck in the sand though, and this is what happens. And at the same time, like, I get why people want to make history about them, because like it's sort of like lame to be like, oh yeah, like, the history of Washington and World War I and World War II, and it's like, yeah, but where are we? So we try to make it about ourselves, and we start hijacking things. We start hijacking, and just to make ourselves feel better, feel important, and feel like self-centered. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe your impact is supposed to be a minor impact. But that then goes into the fear of being forgotten, which everyone has a fear of being forgotten. So we tend to do these selfish things so that people remember us. And some of us do insane things. Some of us do great things. But I think that this is just human nature. Like everything that we're discussing here is just something that happens naturally. There's no like group or like Freemasons behind this or anything. There's no it's nothing diabolical. It's just the different generations that just persist. And
you know what? On that last diabolical Freemason, I suppose we'll just have to agree to disagree. Okay.
Look,
I'm a conspiracy theorist,
and I mean, I can be too, and it's fun.
The way that I view it is that there's the chaos of the world and things that just emerge, and then there's people in positions of power that look at the chaos and then try to make sense of it and then use it for their own purposes. So like this whole like conspiracy theory of like, dude, some of these people, I'll post anything, but like, hey, look at this one good thing, and be like, actually that good thing is actually a bad thing because the people in charge control everything. And I'm like, you're just using this as an excuse to make yourself comfortable in your own nihilism. Like, it gets to that point.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's nihilism. It's nothing can be good. Everything is bad. Yeah. Like, I understand why you got to that point, but it's like, shit.
Well, I'm not there anymore. Oh, just people in general. Okay.
Yeah, but if no one takes that first step of like, okay, let me start like doing good things, then no one is. Like, once again, you have to self-sacrifice. Yes, you're the first person who stands up. Maybe you're going to be forgotten. Maybe you'll be crushed, and maybe it won't matter. But
you know what? Let's make it really dark and say that that's probably what that one guy thought when he lit himself on fire for what's happening in Gaza.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is like, but you have to take that risk. Not every
Absolutely.
sacrifice is rewarded and paid back, but you have to have the faith in your countrymen or in your country or in the system that you created, that if you did have to sacrifice, that it'll be worth it. And we don't.
Yeah.
So we don't do it. We don't sacrifice our time. We don't sacrifice our money. We just keep it for us. And so this is why you have less charity, and this is why you have less trust in society, less community. You know your neighbors less. All of this adds on to each other. We don't. That's the thing. I don't need a malevolent force to put like its weight, on the scales, because we're already doing a good enough job just by being naturally selfish. The things that you say, yes, what they do is they make they accelerate the problem.
Yeah.
But the problem is still there. So
yes. Honestly, what you said about like just one person, that's basically like how the Velvet Revolution happened in Czechoslovakia, around the time the USSR was falling. It was like one by one people
right?
start. What'd you say?
That was a peaceful one where
large,
right?
There were some skirmishes, but it was largely peaceful, and they were able to they basically just like battered like the USSR and the communist regime in Czechoslovakia into submission with largely peaceful demonstrations, civil disobedience, a little bit of violence, but there wasn't a ton. So that's why 2 years ago, the website actually just ran out, but there was a Revolution Velvet website where it was gonna be a hub for all of this kind of stuff to filter in, and it was a bunch of different articles, different videos, basically try to have like a peaceful resistance to the insanity that's happening around us.
Yeah. So he brings up Spain. Spain's still around, but they're no longer what they used to be.
Yeah.
He mentions Romanov Russia. Okay, so he brings them up once. They had their course. Then the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union had their expansion and empire, but it was, it collapsed pretty quick. So you don't have to last 250 years. You can go through the stages like in a much faster way. But yeah, so any regime which attains great wealth and power seems with remarkable regularity to decay and fall apart in some 10 generations. The ultimate fate of its component path does not depend on its internal nature, but on the organizations which appear at the time of its collapse. So what he's saying here is the internal steps, like, from the pioneers to decadence, all of that is exactly the same. But just like with humans, how'd you die? Did you fall off a bridge? Did you get shot? Did you die in a car crash? So the death is different to everyone. So that's not even like important to look at. The important thing to look at is when the rot and the corruption and the I don't give a fuck attitude starts taking over, and it seems like a miasma, that you're stuck in this miasma.
Yeah.
He then gets into so yeah, the lives are uniform, but the falls are diverse. An inadequacy of our historical studies. So we only get limited value from history because they've never made them big enough. Yeah, I teach U.S. history, and not even the whole thing from the colonials to the Civil War. You get zero context.
So yeah, what you're saying is that the teaching of history and how we observe history is lacking the big picture, the context as to how we got there.
It's
okay.
Hyper-focused. It's too hyper-focused. I get it. Like you need to have a test and stuff like that. But it's like, there's a lot of things that you learn in like middle school, high school history come up later. You're like, oh shit. That's like that one time. Oh, okay. Like you start, it sort of sucks. You kind of have read the story backwards sometimes.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? The internet has allowed us to slowly make sense of what's happening around us because we have more context, like it's.
Yeah, and so he's absolutely right. The history needs to be the history of the human race, because once we see the pattern in the big empire starting from the beginning, we can start making more sense of it. It's like, we need, like, once we see the problem manifest multiple times, that's the only way we can have a solution to the problem, where we can try to not collapse, not go into decadence, not have corruption, and because like you fuck over multiple generations. Like imagine you're born and like everyone is depressed about the country, everything sucks, everyone talks about the good old days, and then you go through a fucking pandemic where you can't go to school. You have to put a mask on all the time, and you don't learn how to read in the first grade. Like the demoralization is massive when we screw over an entire like millions of people by going through this system of rise and fall.
Yeah. Which honestly just highlights the I don't know, ingenuity or a bravery. I don't even know how to describe it, of some of your students that are like you said, like you've been like left speechless at some of the things that they've said to you that we couldn't even imagine saying to our teacher when we were that young.
Yeah, like sometimes they're out of pocket. So we only look at our country when it was around, for the most part. Like, yeah, 6th grade U.S. history, 7th grade civics. We just focus on our country. And so we find the actions of our ancestors as glorious, and the actions of the other people as mean, tyrannical, or cowardly. But if we actually zoom out, like, we can say, oh, it wasn't that the colonials were being evil when they took over the Native Americans. That was just a natural progression of them conquering, having success, and then continue their success. At any moment, the Native Americans could have defeated the colonists, the Americans, and stopped them in their conquest. They could have just stopped them and regulated them through the Appalachian Mountains. They would have been a regular country and not this grand empire. We're going to get to the small
I've looked into that and how like all of history is sort of viewed through this dialectical lens of one good guy and one bad guy.
There are no good people. There are no bad people. Like they are fighting for their interests. They're fighting for their culture and their people. And to them, it's important. And I totally understand that. This is not moral relativism in any way. If I'm born in Spain, I'm going to care about Spain and Spanish stuff and not so much about English stuff because I'm exposed to it less. It's just obvious.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are emotionally unwilling to accept that our forebears might be mean or cowardly, and it's like we have to take this mixed approach where it's like George Washington did not walk on water. He lied. He started a fucking war. Like he did. I'm sure he did some bad things, but we must highlight his self-sacrifice. So yeah, like our ancestors did some bad things, but they also did some good things. And then I think this next part's going to be directly to what you've been talking about the whole time. Alternatively, there are political schools of history slanted to discredit the actions of our past leaders in order to support modern political movements. He explained the woke movement. There it is. Like
literally
is you're discrediting ideas in the past, or people in the past, people who had ideas that worked in that time. And you're saying it was shit. It's like, no, it wasn't, because it worked. Like, you can't say it was a bad idea because it led to us. It led to you talking shit online and saying it's bad. If it was bad, we wouldn't have gone into the place we're at. God, so annoying.
That reminds me of a meme, which I'm going to bring up here in a second here.
Ooh, men can scarcely be blamed for not learning from the history they are taught. There is nothing to learn from it because it is not true. Oh, yeah, it's absolutely true. Like when I tell my students like the events of like Thanksgiving, like what actually happened, they're like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do you think you could have learned that in the 3rd grade? Like, are you for real? No, you would have cried to your parents, said your teacher is evil.
Really quick, here's the meme. This is a very big meme online. Your ancestors were not evil. There's like 10,000 iterations of this meme. And it just goes to exactly what we're talking about right now.
I mean, they're not, look, they did evil things. They also did great things. They also did amazing things.
Well, it's like what evil things are the heroes of today doing, right? It's just this childish black and white view of humanity.
Oh, slavery is bad. Okay, yeah, and look at the fact that we have plastic bottles all over everywhere, and you contribute to the plastic shit all the time. And look at all the plastic stuff that you carry around. You're polluting the nation. You're killing all the animals. Go fuck yourself too.
That's what I always thought, that if there was a big reveal, you could put your image back up, a big reveal, a big awakening surrounding the trans issue, is that I would hope that all the people that supported it would look at themselves and be like, oh, so this is how Nazi Germany happened. This is how what happened in the USSR. This is what happened in Mao's China. You know what I mean? Like it would be like they would realize that you can be tricked into supporting something that is evil. Like, so many people in Germany thought every single Jew is evil. Like I would hope that it would create some sort of understanding, but
that's the thing. Once again, we hyper focus. We're like, oh, what's happening right now is everyone is obsessed to be on the right side of history. No one wants to end up with the title of the new Nazis. Like, no one does. The left doesn't, the right doesn't, because that's it, political suicide. So everyone's throwing the hot potato back and forth. But here's the problem: the fact that you're arguing is part of the problem. That part, we're arguing over bullshit. Like, we're arguing over the past. We're arguing over people who who no longer exist. We're arguing about other countries. I don't fucking care about Gaza. Well, let's make our country better. Like, focus on us, self-sacrifice for us. But what you have is we're self-sacrificing for other people because we either feel superior or we feel bad because we feel superior. It's a negative aspect or negative manifestation of pride. It's, oh my God, I did all these horrible things. Look at me. I'm so self-important. Here, let me feed you and clothe you and all that. Does that remove my white guilt? Fuck you.
Fuck you.
No, absolutely. Like, it's absolutely F you, because you are like, it's very simple. I'm just, from now on, I'm just going to say, what is the thing that you are doing? Are you being selfish? Okay, so you're contributing to the problem. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. You're still contributing to the problem. Someone like a corrupt politician stealing $5 million who wears a MAGA hat is no different from a fucking leftist Bernie Sanders or Bro Khanna doing the same thing. It's a person being corrupt, being selfish, choosing them over country, and you should be catapulted into the sun. And the fact that we don't do that because of politics is once again another problem, because once again we are focused on the internal hatreds and differences instead of realizing we're on the same fucking team. We're all Americans. We're on the same team. 80% we have in common. We're just being separated. And at this point, I'm rambling. We're being separated by whomever is in government, because it's always government versus people. It's never left versus right. It's government versus people. Anyways, small nations. So all of this has been true for the big empires, but small nations are sort of different. They can be more self-contained, and you can't generalize small countries and nations because they're all radically different. And so he's not even sort of going to go there. We're just focused on the big hegemonic powers, the big like world powers or national powers, well, not national, but like regional powers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So once he's just summarizing at this point, it's usually violent, kind of like
I think we're getting towards the end here, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. So like 1 or 2 pages. If the present writer were a millionaire, he would try to establish in some university or other a department dedicated solely to the study of the rhythm of the rise and fall of powerful nations throughout the world. God, I would love that to be true.
That'd be amazing.
But he's like, there's a lot of examples. He mentioned 11 empires, but there's others not included. India, China, South America were not included because he doesn't know anything about them. And this is what I like. Not about like these kind of thinkers. Sarah Payne is another really good example. She covers a lot of World War II stuff. If they don't know something, they're not going to go guess or venture or try to like figure things out. Like, I don't know. This is
stay in your lane. Like, stay in your lane. You could educate us about these overall trends that you're discussing without getting into like specific instances that you're not aware of.
It's sticking to your expertise. It's, oh my God, it's being a fucking actual expert. Wow. Instead of trying to make yourself be better and be selfish and be like, oh, I'm expert in everything. No, you're not, bitch. No,
Bill Gates is an expert in vaccines and stuff.
Yeah, so. No way. He's probably not even expert in computers anymore because he's out of the game.
Yeah. Okay. It is really strange that so many people listen to him about the vaccines. Like, why are you even talking? Why am I listening to you talk about this?
He also says it's difficult just because like language is so like different, and like there's so many pieces and like especially for the earlier empires that it's going to be hard to piece together. And also like you have Egypt, and Egypt is an anomaly because like they've been in the same place for like thousands of years. So like that would be interesting for that one. Okay, so summarizing. It is tempting to assume that measures could be adopted to forestall the disastrous effects of excessive wealth and power, and then the subsequent decadence. Perhaps some means could be devised to prevent the activist age of conquest and commerce deteriorating into the age of intellect, producing endless talk but no action. It is tempting to think so. Perhaps if the pattern of the rise and fall of nations were regularly taught in schools, the general public would come to realize the truth and would support policies to maintain the spirit of duty and self-sacrifice and to forestall the accumulation of excessive wealth by one nation, leading to the demoralization of that nation. That is so crazy. You give them everything they want and they get demoralized. Fuck, that meme of hard times is so true.
I mean, humans, like, that's why, I mean, you take away meaningful work, you just give some guy some job that doesn't contribute that much, he becomes depressed. Meaningful work is one of the few things in life.
You see this with people who retire. Like, if you retire and just go on the beach and drink Mai Tais, you're dead within 5 years. And if you don't, if you continue to, like, even going to, like, being around other people and, like, just helping them out with their personal stuff. That's what my mom does. My mom, like, has so many friends. She is like the support network, and that's what she does. She always sacrifices her time and effort to help out other people, to take her friends to, like, the doctor and stuff like that, and it makes her feel good. That's why she's still how she is. She's 70 and you know, like, alive and well.
That's amazing.
And this goes back to, you know, physical resistance in your everyday life. Like, who's going to live longer? The person who lifts weights every day and is still, like, has the, you know, like, they're still doing what they used to in the past, the healthy things, of course, not the unhealthy things, but, like, the being active and all that. Have you noticed that older adults are not as active as younger adults, and that leads to their death faster? Yeah. Because you are giving up the good things of the past, and you have either forgotten them or don't want to use them or decide that you're better than you were before. And you see this with people with jobs. Like, you know, like, if you go through a bad slump in your life and have to go back to, like, working at retail, like, there's going to be a shame. It's like, you did this when you were 20. Why are you in shame?
Yeah, that's extremely demoralizing. I've been there. That's extremely demoralizing.
You see this even more with, like, oh, well, if we kick out all the brown people, who's going to pick your strawberries? I don't know. Maybe poor people. Maybe poor citizens. I don't know. Maybe we can, like, make it so that here's a fucking idea. I don't think that the single dozen C-suite CEOs or executive officers should be making millions of dollars. Maybe the workers should make more money. Oh no, I'm a communist. No, no, you're just being fucking selfish. Like, whatever, you can call me a communist, but one of the things that is true is wealth disparity. Well, what is the point of working my ass off if, like, some bitch on the internet can fart and, like, make $50,000 and by selling her fart water or something?
Well, the stuff you're talking about, you're, like, making jokes that call me a communist. I mean, like, the thing about the communists is that they identify a lot of actual problems. Like, that's a real thing. Marx identified problems.
Yeah, and that's fine,
the classical liberals will say that, oh, all of his problems were just, all the things he identified were in service of his own agenda, and that's true, but that doesn't mean that the problems he identified aren't problems.
Yeah, look, and we need people who detect problems, definitely, but the people who detect problems probably aren't the people who should resolve them.
Yeah.
So, okay, we are almost at the end. So yeah, maybe we can try to educate people on this sort of cycle. But not the sense of duty and the initiative needed to give action to the retained parallel with intellectual development and discoveries of natural science? The answer is doubtful, but we could try. So but then he goes back to human nature. The more comfortable you are, the lazier you're going to be. The lazier you're going to be, the more comfortable you want to be. And it's a vicious, it's turtles all the way down at that point. It's just a vicious circle.
That's like reminds me of depression. You're feeling depressed. You don't want to go out of the house, but the best thing for you to do is go out of the house. So you just stay in the house. You become more depressed.
Fuck, that's such a good analogy. That's a perfect analogy to the stage of decadence. Is you actually know what to do, you know the positive ways to do it, but you just rather marinate in your bullshit because of pride, because of selfishness, because of feel bad for me. And it's like, maybe there's also a sense of inadequacy of, like, fuck, I can't go out into the wilderness and be a man like George Washington or these people, just because, like, the opportunity isn't there for me. Like, everything's already been explored. Like, there is nothing new. And, like, that's another reason why boys play so much Call of Duty and war in video games. They have this desire to, like, want to do things and conquer things and stuff like that. Like, that's just completely natural and normal. It's not like men are evil. I mean, yeah, they do a lot of bad stuff, but it's like we can channel that into positive, positive things.
Exactly.
But we're not. Like, we're not doing that. We're just shitting on them. And it's like, yeah, that's not the answer either. Actually, the answer is to drop the bullshit that has let me take that back. The problems that bothered us in the past and actually try to go past them and try to forge a better future. But we're too busy like caring about who's right about abortion or who's right about reparations, who has the right idea about feminism. I don't give a fuck. Because if feminism succeeds, but the country fails, what was the fucking point of it?
Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
whatever idea that you have, that thing that makes you feel better, if it overall leads to later on us in our 60s and 70s to live a objectively worse life with less material goods, which is something that materialists like, modernists love that, then everything you've done was for nothing. So men bursting with courage, energy, and self-confidence cannot be restrained from subduing their neighbors. And men who see the prospect of wealth open to them will not readily be prevented from pursuing it. Yeah, like that's just what's going to happen. So perhaps it's not in the real interest of humanity that they should be prevented, for it is in the periods of wealth that art, architecture, music, science, and literature make the greatest progress. So what if all of this is necessary to produce the civilization's greatest works? You need it to collapse to produce its greatness. Like, maybe that's just a function of life and society.
I mean, I know that a lot of people have done a lot of great things in their life, like right after or shortly after the lowest point in their life, because they're brought to that lowest point and they're able to achieve great things after it because they understand what it feels like. So makes sense that it would be placed on a civilizational level.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just repeating the establishment of empires do have huge crises, but they also bring a period of prosperity. Yeah. Our knowledge and our experience, perhaps our basic human intellects, are inadequate to pronounce whether or not the rise and fall of great nations is the best system for the best of all possible worlds. So we don't know. Absolutely not. Like, and this is where like alternate history comes in and all that stuff is fun. But we should acquire more knowledge on the rise and fall of empires. We should. Because in this, at least in our situation, it directly affects us. And so if we're going to be selfish, let's at least be selfish to help out the most amount of people outside of yourself. Because if I do a selfish act and I help out 100 people as well as helping me, okay, that's a good thing. But then if I do a selfish thing and I help 1,000 people, well, it's even better. We should encourage that even more. And that I just explained the positive creation of a company and corporation.
I was just going to say that that's basically the idea of what the free market was, is that you get people to engage in trade and provide different services, and then people that don't like each other will actually be willing to work with each other. And the more people work with each other, the more they end up liking each other. So the free market
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say the free market it's basically like communism, in that it's like a completely utopian idea that can never truly come about because it would need people to be almost like selfless in a way, and that's just not in human nature to be completely. So it is utopian, but it's a nice idea. It's a nice idea.
Yeah, it is. So he then goes to maybe, like I said, maybe this is inevitable. And maybe he says a system divinely ordained, like everyone has their chance. And so he says that's divinely ordained. It's super interesting of how he thought of this. But even this would be an immense gain, because we would know where we stand in relation to our human brothers and sisters. In our present state of mental chaos on this subject, we divide ourselves into nations, parties, or communities and fight and hate and vilify one another over developments which may perhaps be divinely ordained, and which may seem to us, if we take a broader view, completely uncontrollable and inevitable. Yeah, I like I said, this is a sort of like sereneness and bliss that's applied to this, where it's like, hey, stop. Maybe you're pushing up against the unstoppable force. Maybe you can't stop it. So, but that means stop wasting your effort in that, and I don't know, start a family or something.
Exactly. I didn't use Twitter for almost like 2 years. I lived it on and off, but it wasn't that because I felt so black-pilled over everything. It was so demoralized. But this goes directly into what I think I was saying before and what I've been saying for a while. is that you can see the black pill and you could taste the black pill and you could swallow it and embrace it, and then you come out on the other end a little bit better, able to look at your life, see what's around you, actually be able to control it instead of feeling completely helpless by this repetitive cycle that's going to happen regardless of whatever you do.
Yeah, and the thing is, the problem with this approach is it's not spicy, it's not vitriolic, it doesn't get the attention, because like I'll use China as an example. So if we could accept these great movements as beyond our control, there would be no excuse for hating one another because of them. So looking at China and the US, you know, Thucydides' trap or something, like, you know, in order to prevent warfare, we're in a controlled demolition so that China takes over. Okay, let's pause that for a second. Maybe let's just make the realization that maybe the institutions, the people, or the leadership of China, maybe they're just hungrier for it. Whatever it is, what they want to do, they just want it more than we do.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think that China emerged from great suffering, and they've seen insane leaps in industrialization.
That's the point. That's the point. They're going through their age of commerce and affluence. Once again, China has done some impressive shit. Like, just the fact that they're like the producers of the world, they have, their military isn't on par to ours. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be fucking close. That's the problem. This is the problem. Like, we're still better than China. The fact that the Chinese are within an arm's length of us is the fucking problem. We should not be there. But if you look at this essay, it makes perfect sense, because we are too busy in the defensiveness and pessimism and materialism and frivolity. We're not pushing up against our borders, but China is. China's pushing up against our borders because they're still in the aggressive stage. Another situation, and in China's situation, in China's case, it's a little different. Maybe there's a correlation with the younger your society is, the more aggressive you tend to be. If your society is run by a bunch of 20-year-olds, they're going to be much more reckless and aggressive and do crazy things than a bunch of 80-year-olds. Duh. Yeah,
and there's and people, by people taking those chances, there's going to be a lot of destruction and chaos and stuff. But there's going to be some fruits that arrive from that behavior. A few different things that are going to innovate and create.
Yeah, and then sort of we shouldn't be mad at China for like taking our trade deals. Why did they take our trade deals? Because we forgot to maintain them. Because
we gave them a lot of it. They make our antibiotics, for God's sake.
But that's the thing. We're being selfish, and we're doing things to serve to maybe the individuals in those positions are serving themselves instead of serving the nation. So that's the thing. Like, and this is our code. We look at China like, they're a communist nation. Oh, they're communist, so it's bad. And it's like, okay, yes, but understand that what they are doing is they're doing things. Their companies benefit the nation or benefit the party. In addition to just themselves, there also is like a cut for, the big guy sort of thing. We don't fucking do that. Like, we don't have the care of others, even if it's a quote unquote forced kind of care. It doesn't, like, functionally, it doesn't matter if it's forced or not. The fact that you have a nation that is more likely to contribute to itself than one that is not, well, then it produces exactly the differences that you see. This is why the U.S. is a declining empire and China is a rising empire. That's exactly what it is. It's just because of the attitudes and dispositions of the people who are there.
And I would say that you are seeing a little bit of this, like, in terms of us realizing that we're in this decline, because like the left controlled everything for so long, and they still I know right now Trump is in power, but the left still kind of has control of the institutions, or at least whoever controls the institutions is giving them a leftist sort of veneer. But I mean, you are seeing, look at the laws that have been passed in all the red states to protect kids. There are so many grassroots activists that have realized this and have kind of basically awakened and been activated by this, and they're trying to reverse course. So there is a lot of that going on in the face of this sort of impending doom and decline.
I haven't even got into the models of like, where do we fit? Like, does like put the United States in the 6 stages? Like, where do they pan out? We haven't gotten to that.
I know we didn't get to that point, but I think we did cover it in some regard by talking about it.
Like, there's not like a visual chart or anything like that, but we didn't go through the exact steps. But here's actually the point. The model doesn't matter, actually, because if you look at the 3 models, model 1, we started in 1776. Okay, well, what's 250 years? Literally next year. Like literally next year is the 250 mark. So you can say, oh, we're in the age of decadence, defensive, pessimistic, blah, blah, blah. Foreigners, welfare state. Yeah. Weakening of religion. We check all of those things. And yeah, we've been the global superpower for a long time. Yeah. We have a love of money. We're selfish and we don't have a sense of duty. All of those things are true.
Now, wait
There are
until
other
the
models.
next. Go ahead.
So real quick, there are two other models. One of them starts us off in 1898 when we, basically take Spain's lunch, and then we become a regional empire. Now, if you take that, we're still in the age of intellect, because in a way we still have technology to offer. I think something AI or something like that will be our greatest contribution. So you can make the argument that, okay, we're not in the age of decadence yet, but we are in the sunset part of the age of intellect, which means all the stuff that you see of people being assholes and greedy, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
And then the last one is 1945 was when we started our empire, which I don't like that one because it doesn't follow Glubb's model at all. And at the same time, like, it just pushes us, like, we're in the age of affluence, that we're still like being, brag about rich and famous, because we are still rich and famous. Yeah. But like, we know that's running out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The model doesn't matter, because all three models, any model points to the same thing. We are in a place where we're selfish bastards. And every time where the citizens of a nation primarily become selfish bastards, that's the beginning of the end. So we want to avoid that.
That would be good. And I'll say, wait until episode 3, guys, because we're officially going to talk about and prove that the moon landing was fake. Are you ready for that, Angel?
No, I'm not ready for that.
The limiting principle. Don't be a retard. Never be retarded.